baby. Welcome back to the Millionth channel. My name is James. I'm joined once again by my brother Henry, and today we are doing a very special recording. It's been a while since we've uploaded, but we have a very special occasion because today we are talking about Saw X, aka Saw 10. Obviously, it's just come out. It was in cinemas from the 29th of September, and we are recording on the 11th of October. And in that space, me and Henry have already seen the film twice in cinemas. So obviously that kind of tells you a lot. So yeah, this is obviously our Saw series ended, I think, at the end of last year or early this year. We did all the Bond films, so now we're revisiting it, obviously, because we have this momentous occasion upon us, in the form of, like I said, Saw 10. So this is directed and edited by Kevin Grutert. I hope I'm saying that right. So he directed Saw 6 and 7, I believe, edited all the others, but this is the first one that he's directed and edited at the same time. I think that becomes obvious. We're going to make this, obviously, this show, the first bit is going to be spoiler free, the last bit is going to be spoiler filled because we're going to talk all about it. But yeah, and a runtime of 1 hour 58 minutes as well, so the longest Saw film in the series. So that's our initial, obviously starring Tobin Bell. Shawnee Smith is there. Some others we'll get into a little bit later. But yeah, for now, Henry, what was your reaction to Saw X? How did you feel about it?
Well, I think it was the case that, as with many Saw films, on the first watch, you're kind of you're a little bit confused, and that's kind of the point, and you're trying to figure out what's going on. And obviously, in most cases, if not all cases, you can never see what's coming. And there were many pleasant and kind of crazy surprises that occurred during this on the first watch. And on the second viewing, I feel most Saw films are better after you've seen them already, because you get to see all these like little hints and all these things that kind of are obvious now, but weren't when you see it the first time. And of course, this was intended to be made in a similar vein to like the first Saw films, and
Yeah,
I think it does manage to recapture some of that sort of kind of. I mean, obviously, you can tell this has been made in 2023. Like they've got, it's very,
yeah,
they've obviously evolved the cinematography a lot, and
yeah.
the bloods don't look like strawberry jam, and there's like, although one thing is they do set this, and I think it's still supposed to be set between Saw 2 and 3.
I looked it up, actually. This is supposed to be set supposedly between Saw 1 and 2, but I don't think you can possibly watch this. It's a weird one, like but the thing about Saw is obviously the whole timeline is so chopped up and retconned and everything. At this stage, it just doesn't matter. As long as you're a fan of Saw, you can just put everything together in your head, and it just won't. There's no. I mean, I was thinking, yeah, you could make a fan edit, and then in theory have all of these in some kind of sequential order. But then again, the Saw series has always relied on flashbacks. It's always had that as part of it. So I don't think that's a big problem. Although, as you're saying, yeah, me and Henry, we both watched this together in two different cinemas, funnily enough. And yeah, the first time was extremely confusing for me. I was watching it and I was like, I just didn't know where they were going with it. It was really I don't know. I was just constantly like, and that's a good thing, I suppose, because obviously with a Saw film, it's supposed to be unpredictable. It's supposed to have twists. That's like a very important thing. And obviously part of our show is that at the end we're going to rank Saw X and various elements within the Saw films, such as the traps, the endings. We're going to rank them up against all the other Saw films in the series. We already have a ranking list, so you can go back and watch our previous episodes. But yeah, for now, so yeah, we've already seen it twice, so we've done our bit for the box office. Right now, the Saw X had a budget of $13 million, and its opening weekend, because obviously we don't have the full box office numbers yet, because it's only been out for about.
Wait, you say 13 1-3 or 3-0?
13 1-3, yeah. So not that's still very low. Like relatively
especially
speaking.
given
But then again,
inflation.
against all the other Saw films, they've always been around this area, most of them. So and Saw films aren't something you can. If it's not something that requires too much budget. I mean, it depends, but yeah. So then you've got the opening weekend was $18 million. So I looked this up against the previous Saw films, and usually they have an opening weekend of about 30 million. So it's not far off, but it's still, I suppose,
Yeah.
playing catch up. And as it stands, the worldwide gross is $57 million. So I think it should be on its way to making 100 million. It's getting very good reviews. It's getting lots of good feedback. In fact, I think this is the
Yeah, imagine.
highest rated Saw film ever, according to critics and stuff. You know, how
Yeah.
seriously you want to take a critic's opinion on a horror film is really up to you. I think it's a very subjective thing, especially within this genre. But
Also,
yeah,
bear in
I
mind.
definitely agree with you that. Sorry.
Also, bear in mind, Halloween hasn't even come and gone yet, so a lot of people will
Yeah,
probably watch it then.
that's the thing. And also, it's like this movie was originally supposed to come out on the 27th of October. This is supposed to be a Halloween movie, and every Saw film bar one, which I think was Spiral, which was obviously released during lockdown. So obviously this was supposed to be released in October, and then instead just goes, do you know what? No, we're going to bring it forward. We're going to bring it forwards by 1 month. So that was obviously fun. Otherwise, we'd still be waiting for it right now.
Yeah,
So yeah,
but
we've
hopefully that's
already, like I
managed.
said, we've already seen it twice. I agree with you in the fact that the second viewing was far better. The first viewing was just very confusing because they went in a different direction. It's weird. They kept very true to the original Saw elements, which I appreciate, obviously, but they really went out on a different sort of. I mean, first of all, the movie is like set in Mexico, right? Most of
Hmm.
it. So it's the first time a Saw movie has left its, I'm not entirely. No one is really too sure. I don't believe where Saw is. All the Saw films are actually based, like John Kramer and all that. But this one was certainly in Mexico, so you had this slightly different circumstances in it, and a lot of things, like you say, were just very unpredictable. Very like I just had no idea where they were going with it. I felt like the first time I watched it, it was very slow. The first hour or so,
Mm.
very slow, and like I say, very confusing. Um, but yeah, obviously then it starts picking up and then it starts all making sense. And then when we watched it a second time, yeah, I think it was a far better experience. And I'm really glad
Yeah,
that we did that in the cinema. Um, I mean, obviously rewatching them, on your own time is like one thing, but this is the first time both of us have been able to see a Saw movie in the cinema. Even though I've been a fan for like 10, 11 years, to actually go
yeah,
and see them in the cinema, it's a great experience. I've got to say.
yeah,
Um,
100%. And one of the things as well is obviously most Saw films. I think all of them have been around the 90-minute mark. And in
yeah.
fact, this dedicates another half hour to basic. I think a lot of that went towards the beginning where it sets up kind of the whole premise, which is
Mm,
based on John Kramer's cancer therapy and a
yeah.
groundbreaking new treatment he's going to receive, um, and the whole story with that. And it I think directly references. Oh, actually, this is referenced in retrospect from Saw 6 because he mentions, oh yeah, there's a treatment in Norway that's like really expensive, and then
Mhm.
this is where your short came in that you made of he's
Oh,
talking
do you
to
think this
William.
is?
He's like,
Oh,
oh yeah,
yeah, I
but that's
remember
gonna
this.
be
Yeah,
yeah,
so he wanted the medical insurance to go and get this treatment.
yeah, and he's like, oh, the
Yeah,
cost to
because
you is
obviously
staggering.
all of that in Saw 6 is obviously a huge flashback as well. And like, yeah, because in Saw 6, obviously, John Kramer's like killing William from the grave, but well, not well, testing him from the grave, let's say. Like
Yeah, we
John's
don't
been
kill
long
people.
dead in Saw 6, but obviously, yeah, he's getting his apprentices to carry out the tasks on William. So yeah, you think, yeah, that makes sense actually. This was what he was supposed to, the medical coverage. It's funny because this film is like the first time, Saw X is the first one where John is actually very much portrayed as a protagonist. I feel obviously he's like one of the iconic horror movie villains, right? But in this one, it definitely feels like he's more of a protagonist. It feels like, to me, this movie felt like very influenced by Breaking Bad. That might sound like a strange thing to say for some people, but
A little bit, I can
I'm
see.
seeing a lot. I'm seeing a lot of parallels there because you've got the whole. I mean, some obvious ones. Obviously, set a lot of it in Mexico. You've got that yellow tint, which actually I think was first really. I remember seeing that in Saw 2, I believe. It's like really yellow. It was like sickly
Oh
yellow,
yeah,
pretty much. And then obviously, Breaking Bad happened. That made it like, and also Sicario, I believe it's called. So you've got like a lot of that started becoming very trendy, the yellow sort of Mexico filter, and then obviously Saw X goes and visits that directly. You've obviously also got a lot of focus on this cancer storyline, like you said, John having cancer, which he's always had, since the first film. Um, but obviously this time it's like very much focused on the character development and his emotions, and you actually get to see Tobin Bell go through actually a lot of emotion. There's a moment where he gets very emotional. He's like he sheds a tear, and it's like kind of strange, but it fits him. And I don't want to obviously give away right now because we're trying to keep this bit spoiler free, but there's a lot of stuff he goes through in this film, and it's just this, like you said, it's half an hour longer than most Saw films, and obviously they use that to really build a lot of character development in this. Even they tried doing that with Amanda, I feel, who was also obviously back in this film. So yeah, we should just jump into the plot, shouldn't we?
yeah, because we basically are doing this at this point.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it. Okay. So obviously, we actually most Saw films open up with a trap, but this one instead opens up with John Kramer going through chemotherapy. That's the very that's the opening frame in like a radiation chamber, right? So he comes out of that and he's like, how are my results? Da da da. We see him at a cancer support group as well, and he's kind of like, I don't know. It was an interesting one. It's like, there's like the one of them saying, every day is a gift, and that's why they call it the present. And I feel like you see John sort of cringing, like,
Oh yeah,
I don't know. I feel like he doesn't feel quite at home in these groups. But it's interesting to think like while that's going on, he's like saw traps are happening, like
yeah. It's like everyone's got a
yeah,
different outlet and way of dealing with it, and it's just like just
yeah,
you
yeah.
even get to
And
see.
you've got see. I like that the doctor, and you've got a moment with the doctor like telling him, oh, he sits down with the doctor and he's like, yeah, what are my results? How long have I got? A year, months, weeks, whatever. And he's like, oh, you should, because he's like, yeah, I've got a lot of work to do. And the doctor's like, oh, you know what? You should just retire. That'll make it easier. Easier to what? To die? So John is still like very much this like he's saying this shit that like he was saying to William. He's like very like just he doesn't beat about the bush. Do you know
Very
what I'm saying? So
stubborn
he's
in a
like
way,
going in
yeah.
there and he's like, yeah, and then he's like, we see John like sort of walking around the hospital after his therapy, after his cancer support group,
Yeah,
and he's like he's walking around, he's getting a glass of water.
yeah. He
And
literally
and as he's doing so, he sees a bloke in a coma, and like an orderly around, hovering around him, kind of like, actually now I'm thinking about it, Zepp was an orderly, right, from the original Saw.
Oh yeah, you're right. Actually,
there's always a little hospital thing going on here. Can you imagine if Zepp came back somehow? But yeah,
that'd be
anyway, so
so
obviously
stupid. Like he
so
died
John,
in the
yeah, just through a
previous
little
film.
peephole. Yeah. So John, he's like I say, he's got his water, and then he's seeing a guy, the orderlies come, and like he's rummaging through this guy's drawer, right,
Yeah,
and
it's
he's
like the
finding
most
his
bait
watch in
person
his
of all
wallet.
time.
Yeah. He's bait. He's like pulling it out, and he's like, taking ages, having a really good look. But it's like he's not just slipping it in the pocket or anything. He's really, I don't know. It makes you think maybe it's his first nick. I don't know. Either way, John's seeing it happen, and the camera, the sort of POV pans over to the guy who's in a coma, and his hand is in this, obviously trying to reset the joints or whatever. I don't know the medical
Yeah,
term,
it's
but
like his fingers
it's
are broken as well or something. Yeah,
right.
so
So he
it's like
looks
trying to
over,
keep
and
the
then he's
bones in
like,
place to heal properly.
yeah, and then we get our first Saw trap in Saw X, and it's the one that's been used for all the marketing,
Posters,
basically, right? On the main poster, yes, it's like this eye-sucking track, which is very I love it. You know, when I'm seeing all the London buses go by. Do you remember I'd send you a picture and stuff, and I see one. It's like, oh yeah, you know,
Yeah, it's the
the
guy.
Saw X poster. It's so cool because in the past we've had like, you know, 3 teeth or something like that, or this one's
Or 2
this one for me is
fingers.
maybe my favorite Saw poster actually.
Yeah, probably.
So let's talk about the trap. Let's talk about the trap then. Um, what did you think about this one?
I mean, the thing is, effectively, he's got like this kind of like metal mask over him, and like these tubes that
Mm,
go up, or like through some like crazy like I don't know thing that goes into a vacuum. And I didn't even realize on the second viewing the vacuum's already on, so like his eyes are probably being like pulled on quite a bit.
yeah,
And his one hand's got a dial, and the other one's like hooked up in this like the same thing that the guy he was stealing from had. The whatever it's the bone resetter or something.
yeah,
And
yeah,
he's
yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
"Oh, hello, unnamed cleaner. We gotta address those sticky fingers." So basically,
Yeah.
he's got to turn a dial past 5 different switches, and each of them breaks his one finger. And I'm like, that's actually not that bad. Like, you know,
Well, yeah, it's not for you. It's not for you. Okay, this might be great for audio listeners, but show them on camera what you can do with your fingers.
I'm immune to this
Watch this
trap.
guy, man. Oh, like I get squeamish at that. I can watch any Saw trap. Anyway, yeah. So Henry, you'd have no problem in this trap. I actually think this is kind of like quite, relatively speaking, easy trap because all you got to do is just break each finger on your hand, and I think that's when we look back at other Saw traps. I think you're getting off pretty lightly there, especially it's to save your own eyes as well.
Yeah,
Which
literally.
obviously he doesn't. He sort of he can only do the first 3 fingers. It starts with the pinky, obviously, and then those 3 go up, and then he can't finish off his finger and thumb. I wonder how the thumb would have
Thumb would probably be
worked.
the
I don't know.
worst, I
Anyway,
think.
we'll never know
No,
because his eyes do get sucked out one at a
yeah, not
time as well. I thought
yeah,
they get sucked
one
out at the
after the
same
other
time.
as well.
Yeah, I thought. Did you think they? I assumed they'd come out at the same time, but
Yeah,
no,
literally.
they did one at a time, and they followed the eye going through the tube and ending up in the container. Man, I'm like, oh, this is sick. And the
Yeah,
funny thing
do
is,
you reckon he gets like you'd get like a little baggie to, you know, bring them home or something?
yeah, maybe. But the
Yeah.
thing for me though is that that's it. Like the eyes get sucked out, and then he's just there. So
Yeah, it's a bit
from what I
confusing,
remember,
like,
pretty much
'cause
most, yeah. I just thought it's a bit strange that they didn't have a way of actually, you know, like you said. I think you said you were surprised they didn't like pour acid back down the tubes or something like that, right?
yeah, that's what I thought was gonna happen, to be honest.
To actually kill him. Um, but yeah, I suppose John. Anyway, the whole thing is a fake out, right? So
Yeah, you
and
get to
it's
see
not the first fake out in the Saw
back
series.
in Saw 7,
Is
when
it Saw
Mark,
7?
yeah, Saw
Oh, I
7,
think it
Mark
was Saw
Hoffman.
6, wasn't it?
No, it was Saw
You know, the
7
only
because
thing
a lot of
wrong with
that is Mark
killing
Hoffman
you,
trying to
Jill.
kill Jill.
Yeah, the only thing wrong with killing you, Jill, can only do it once.
Yeah,
So good.
literally.
I wonder if
Yeah, but
Hoffman's in this
that's
film.
I do kind
What to
of.
find out.
I think it's acceptable in this because most of the time fake outs are like really cheap, but in this, I
It
think you can
works.
get
There's a
away with
point
it.
to it.
Yeah, because you get to see kind of John Kramer's inner thought process. So he's obviously like it's more you get to see like where he looks for inspiration. Like this hospital's a
Right.
great place for that, and like this guy's practically giving it to him on a plate. Um, and he's even like
But yeah,
it's funny as
it
well
turns
'cause
out to be a fake out because the guy looks up and he sees John. How he didn't spot him before is
well, it's
beyond me.
because
But
it's
anyway,
through
he sees
blinds,
him and
I
then
guess.
he puts all the shit back in the drawer and walks away and and John just goes, "Good choice," like he just think, yeah. And this guy has no idea, man, what he just missed out on. But yeah,
Yeah, to be honest.
and it's a great moment, and it's just like, oh wow, yeah, like you say, you get to see John Kramer's thought process, which is cool. So then he goes to his favorite cafe,
Yeah.
and who
With a
walks
glass
by
of
but his
water.
old mate Henry. How did it
Yeah.
feel, Henry, to have to be name checked in a Saw movie?
Yeah, by John Kramer.
Yeah, no,
The one
I always
disappointing
told
thing.
you, man, your name is way more of a sore victim name than mine.
Yeah, the only problem is you never get to hear him say, "Hello, Henry."
We were so close. We were so close. If they did it I mean, nah, I mean, nah, let's save it to the end, obviously. But yeah,
Save the last one.
Henry's like part of John's cancer support group, and he's got this huge scar, and Henry's looking 10 times better as well because it's like, oh yeah, he was supposed to be like basically on death's door with his condition,
Fourth
and then
stage
suddenly he's like
pancreatic.
full of life, and he comes and he sees John, and he's like, oh yeah, I had this great treatment in Norway. You should check it out. Here's the link. Blah blah blah. And I'm like, oh, okay. And it's obviously, and then John, because he goes, oh yeah, he goes, it's a long. John's like, oh, you're looking great. What happened? And what really stood out to me with this scene is actually how frail John looks. I mean, in the whole film, but especially in this moment, because obviously it's outdoors and it's sunny, right? Which isn't a usual setting for a Saw film,
Yeah.
and he looks really old, and like they've done a great job making him really look like he's like very late into obviously his cancer
Yeah, well, also
condition,
bear,
right? So
given that it's been like 5 or 10 years since his last film, so that helps.
right, and Tobin Bell's, he's no spring chicken anyway, but
He's already,
they did a great job making him look like, very frail. And then you see Henry strutting around, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm all good, bruv." And he's like, and then John's like, "Oh, so what happened? Why? How did you do it?" Because he's like, "Yeah, I'm in complete remission." Like 2 weeks later,
Yeah.
and he's like, "Oh, it's a long story." And he's like, "Well, I'd love to hear it," And he's like, "Okay." So then he gives him the link. And then
Oh
John
yeah,
Crane, like you
because they
say, he's
can't.
like surfing the internet.
Yeah. It's like it's like something you never think you'd see. It's just like Sean Crome on his like little laptop at like, I don't know, 1 a.m. or something, just like scrolling through. It goes past like the folder where it's like got all the schematics for saw traps, and he's just like using.
Yeah,
Was he using Google? I can't remember, to be honest. I
I can't
don't
remember.
know.
I know he had like an old phone. It's clever how they dated it by putting like old phone. That really helped me kind of get back into the swing of it because I saw the phone. And I'm like, oh, that's an old phone, and I'm like, oh yeah, because this is taking place back then. I think it was a nice little touch there. So he follows this link that Henry gave him for this like miracle cancer treatment by Dr. Peterson, and then
Yeah, it's actually
he
Dr.
gets a phone
Peterson's
call.
daughter,
Right, so
because
Cecilia Peterson calls him.
he's not in Norway anymore.
Yeah. Right. So Cecilia Peterson calls him, and she's like, "Oh yeah, yeah. Well, we're pretty booked up, but we can get you in 3 months." And he's like, "Oh, you don't have 3 months, do you? Okay, well, let me move things around. Oh yeah, we could actually get you in next week." And it's like, "Oh sweet." So John
But
gets
you're
on
gonna have to
the
come to,
he gets on the plane to Mexico, and it's weird because it's like this really uplifting music, and you got to remember all this time we're watching a Saw movie, right? So there's all this
yeah.
uplifting music, there's all this sunlight, it's very like beautiful looking, and John's like feeling like he's getting some hope and he's gonna like recover and stuff. Obviously we as the audience know that's impossible, but we're kind of
Yeah,
like,
because
well, what's going on then? Do you know what I mean? The first time I watched it, I was so confused because I'm like, what am I watching right now? Is this some
yeah,
sort of
I
like
know.
parallel
It's like,
timeline or something? Like, is this a multiverse thing? I don't know. Is this where
yeah,
John gets
yeah, he
cured and he's,
meets,
I don't know.
yeah, he opens the door, he meets like 5 different John Kramers at once.
Yeah, yeah. I'm like, I'm
Yeah,
really
then
confused watching this. I'm like, what's going on? Obviously, the second time you're like, oh, okay, yeah, now I get it. And I presume that anyone listening to this show has seen the movie. So I don't know if we're alone in feeling this way, but as like a diehard Saw fan, it was just very strange seeing him in these surroundings, right?
Yeah, it's like I said
Obviously,
to you,
yeah,
like,
go on.
I mean, even after he gets his treatment, and during this part, it feels like you're watching like a yogurt ad or something like that.
Right, yeah,
It's like that
exactly.
kind. It's like
And
that kind
he's
of like framing and stuff.
yeah. So he gets into Mexico and he gets in a taxi and he's been given a little tour, by Diego,
Yeah,
and
don't
he
forget the
goes in.
heart rolling down the steps.
Yeah. They go past the statue of this Aztec like warrior, whatever, and he's like, yeah, this guy used to tear out hearts and throw them down the stairs and stuff, and all the tourists want to see this. And John's like, interesting, and
Got to write that one
gets his
down.
notebook out. Yeah. And then it's weird. And the confusion continues, right? Because John suddenly gets kidnapped. This fucking black van drives out of nowhere, stops the car. They come out in ballies, yeah, and they're like pointing a gun to his face and like, well, who are you? And he's like, I'm John Kramer. And he's like, don't fucking lie to us, old man. He's like, oh, I'm not lying. And he's like, oh, great, come with us then. And it's like, what the fuck am I watching? Do you know what I mean? That's really how I felt. Like, at this point, it was at this point in my first viewing, I was just like, okay, I don't know what the fuck is going on now. Let me just. But all I knew is this is like some kind of it really in moments like that made it feel like Breaking Bad as well a lot. I don't know what it is, but
Or being kidnapped in
anyway,
Mexico. I've never seen that in Breaking Bad.
Right, exactly. So
like the next thing is they got like the scene with Saul before an open grave, you know.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm thinking, man. Yeah, like John Kramer teams up. Well, Amanda like is pretty likely to have been a meth head at some point as well. So,
yeah,
I mean,
actually, come think of it, maybe Saul's his lawyer. That's why he's never been caught. Well.
Oh, and you've actually got what's the guy? Art Blank. It's the
the guy who plays
Declan,
right? Remember? And he's also in Saul too.
Yeah, because you've got Art Blank in Saw. No, he's not in Saw 2. He's in Saw 4.
No, that's different.
The guy gets his mouth sewn shut, right? And then also later on, he's in the room with Mark Hoffman and Eric Matthews, right? When they're on the scales, and he's there. Remember? He's John Kramer's lawyer because he goes like, he's the one who John goes like, get the fuck out, you know, to him and shit. So yeah, it's this guy's in it, and he's obviously also the guy who Walter White goes, you know, say my name.
Yeah, that is Declan. So yeah.
Yeah. So shared universe.
Yeah, basically confirmed.
Confirmed on the Millionth channel. You heard it here first. So anyway, obviously you've got he goes into he's brought to this secret location because obviously Dr. Peterson explains that to him over the phone as well. She's like, oh yeah, the big pharma's coming after us. They don't want our miracle cure being found out. So yeah, you know, we've got a top secret location. Our trusted driver will pick you up, blah, blah, blah. And that happens. And then he arrives at this clinic, I guess you can call it. And he meets Gabriella. He meets Dr. Peterson herself. Who explains yeah, obviously secret location, so we can't, you know, it has to be a secret even for you. They walk past a little kid called Carlos who's just playing football there casually. No need to think about him again. Sorry?
Yeah, no need to remember that at all. Just kicking against a particular wall.
Yeah, and then they go to this lab with they find Dr. Peterson shows him the lab, and it's really weird because you go from these nice like beds and stuff, and then it's like suddenly you're in this really dark warehouse, and it's like, oh yeah, this used to be, what was it, some like chemical processing plant.
That was it.
Yeah. And then we meet Matteo, Valentina, and like, so these are the doctors that are going to be surgeons, whatever. And then you've got, you know, fucking Billy Butcher here as well, you know, getting off the treatment table, like, oh, just got a tube massage my belly down my neck, you know, like. So yeah,
fucking diabolical, I'll tell you that. Like they'd actually just hired Carl Urban for this shit.
Yeah, this guy might as well have been Billy Butcher, man. I swear. But anyway, it's just this random. You know, you need an obligatory like random British guy in the Saw series, right? Because we had who was it? Charles before from The Herald.
Oh man, why do you have to remind me of that guy?
Do you know what? Like, imagine if they brought him back as well, and he's like doing a journalist piece or someone, like, you know. Anyway,
I'd just bring him back and kill him again just because it's funny. Put him in the lobotomy one.
So yes, so they show him the I don't know what to call it, the clinic, the operating room, let's call it. And then she's sort of having a little interview with John Kramer, and she's like, yeah, so you know, what you do, what'd you get, what do you do? And he's like, oh, I have a few hobbies, you know. And it's like,
oh yeah,
And it's like, oh, and what do you know? And she keeps digging. He's like, oh, I help people overcome inner obstacles. And
So
she's
like a
like,
life
oh, just
coach.
like a life coach. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's like, something like that.
Yeah,
And at
yeah.
this
Let's
point,
talk about your survival rate then.
yeah, and then
Yeah,
Gabriella comes, she gives him a bottle of tequila, and she's like, yeah, and then he starts like reciting poetry. Oh, your sun rises, and it's like, yeah, your sun's rising, John, you're gonna have a great life now. And again, I'm sat there as an audience member, I'm like, what the fuck, what is this movie? I'm like, this is really weird.
yeah. It's just, yeah. Like the thing is, next scene is at night, obviously, because he's having a kip, and it's like, I guess, is this place going to get raided by Big Pharma or something?
No,
And
he goes and fixes, he finds Carlos, the little kid, and he like goes and mends his bike.
yeah,
And
he
he's
learns
like,
one Spanish word,
yeah, he's John. John speaks a lot of Spanish in this movie as well. He's like really
Yeah,
pulling it out.
yeah, no
Respect,
pun
man.
intended.
Not like Hank. But
Yeah, yeah, he learns the
but
word
yeah,
for
he learns
pool.
one Spanish word, which is pull. Henry, do you remember how to say that in Spanish, by the way?
Hala in it.
Holla. Yeah, you got it.
Yeah,
So
I
yeah,
didn't do Spanish for
so
GCSE.
that's definitely not. And even that, you're like, okay, yeah, but you don't really when that particular scene, I'm like, okay, whatever. It's like a little bit of character building, but nothing significant, right?
Yeah, remember
Um,
Carlos? He'll be back. Nah, Carlos ends up becoming what's his name? How have I forgotten? Billy the puppet before John
yeah,
Gravy could
or
afford an
Carlos becomes
animatronic.
Tuco or something. But yeah, anyway, and then we get one of the doctors, Roman Cortez. He performs the surgery. So John's there, and this is the bit where I was kind of like, now I'm really really confused because I'm remembering Saw 3, obviously when he has
Yeah, I was like, by
when
this point,
Amanda, does the brain surgery on him, right? She
and he's clearly
not
never
Amanda,
had it
but the
before.
doctor.
Yeah,
Yes, I'm like, um, I know this is taking place before Saw 3, but in Saw 3 there would have been, if this had already happened, some brain surgery, there would have been some obvious. So I'm like, I'm really confused. I'm like, there'd be some markings in Saw 3. How are they going to retcon this? I was so lost.
yeah. I was like,
Um,
did they like mess up or something during this? Like,
right,
and,
right, right.
and also it makes it even more confusing when like John's looking at like the monitor because this is like a partially awake surgery, and because they
Yeah,
have to keep an eye on whether or not they're like messing with his motor functions, and he's like seeing like, oh, like he could see like the footage of the surgery because there's like a camera above him, and there's also a monitor, and then they're all like, oh, hang on a minute, and they just turn the monitor away, and I'm like, what's like,
yeah, that's right. And
were
then
they is a patient supposed to be able to see that? I assume not. So
yeah, it's weird. I haven't watched many brain surgeries myself, so I'm not
yeah.
entirely sure. But it all looks pretty legit to me. So I'm like, oh, okay, fine. And I suppose that's all they really need to achieve in this context, right? So then and then John wakes up in his bed and he's like, and
Yeah,
Dr. Peterson
bandaged up
comes
like
up and
Mr.
he's like,
Bump.
yeah, that's exactly right. And Dr. Peterson comes and he's like, yeah, John, you're totally cured now, man. Have a long and fruitful life, whatever. And
Now,
he's like,
don't
oh,
forget you
and he's
drink.
so happy, it's like the sun's shining on him, and he's there, and he's in his bed, and he's like cured and stuff, and it's like, oh wow. Um,
And also,
and she's like, yeah,
don't forget the
yeah.
he's got to drink. I think 2 a day of these like clear vials. We never got to find out what was in those.
Oh, yeah. I never
Granny's peach
thought
tea,
about.
maybe.
Yeah, what do you reckon that? Okay, well, we'll come back to that because obviously, because John's like now he's like beginning his life again. He's like he's in the park, and you can see the kids and the swings behind him and stuff, and he's
Yeah,
designing a saw trap
that's
in
the
the park, like
funniest
it.
thing as well. It's just like, oh yeah, I'm gonna get to live the rest of my life. I'm just gonna continue doing assault traps. Like, it
That was
wasn't
the
the
thing for
achievement
me
that
though,
made him
because
go crazy.
the second time I watched it, I noticed he's like doing it, and it's almost like a comedy moment. It's like, oh, it's like I feel like I should laugh here. Are we supposed to laugh? Like we're in the cinema watching a horror film. It's like this is like a comedy moment, right? But then he tears the page off and he's like throws it in the bin. He's like, nah, fuck. So I'm thinking like, is he gonna quit at this point? Is he quitting making saw traps? And he goes to the shop. He buys some tequila, and then he's like he draws a map. Right, he sees a radio tower and he's like uses his civil engineering skills or whatever to figure out where the clinic is. So he gets in a taxi and he says, "Un momento, por favor," like
Yeah,
that,
there
like
was
my
no.
Jesus, his
I
Spanish is.
noted there was no subtitles for that bit, so I was confused as to what he meant.
Yeah, this is like my year 9 Spanish classes kicking in, man. But yeah, anyway, he just anyway. So then he walks into the clinic, and then it's like it's completely abandoned,
It's
right?
been like
Uh,
trashed. Well, trashed.
yeah, trashed. It's like it feels like to me like it's like you're trashing a load of stuff that you've bought yourself. So it's like nothing's really been trashed at all. It's like he
Yeah,
got
that they
someone
then
came
like
and
got the
like
monster and just turned it down.
shuffled things around instead because it's like all this. I feel like a lot of budget went into like this set, and then they're like, oh, we can't really fuck all this up, you know. We've got to like just move everything a little bit to make it. I don't know. It's very strange. And at this moment, I'm like, okay, finally, now something's gone wrong. I'm like, do you know what I mean? Like, okay,
Yeah, it's
now
like
what's
you're
gonna
gonna
happen?
get something here.
Right. And then he obviously he picks up the monitor, which is obviously in perfect working order, and it's not even been password protected or anything. He's able to just like hit the space bar, and it's like instantly goes to the brain surgery
Yeah,
video.
yeah,
Um, and then there's this moment, man. So it's like
yeah, because
this is great. This is when it starts feeling like a Saw film because you get these really fast cuts, you know, the quick cuts, right? It's like like that going around him, and he goes because he's having this like moment of realization. And he
yeah,
goes in the
because the
mirror
thing
and
the
he
thing
tears
is
off the
that
headband
the thing is
off.
that like that was really confusing for me when I was watching this the first time. Is
Mhm.
like what because he saw like the clip of them doing like well what they were using to show him of them doing brain surgery,
Yeah,
but it's actually a tutorial on how to do brain surgery. So I was
yeah.
like, are these guys like amateur doctors or something, and they like fucked up his
Oh,
lobotomy, or like because like when he pulled off like the hat or the bandages, I was like, oh, it's gonna be like grim because they had like the music building up to it as well. And it's like
oh, yeah.
yeah, plot twist. They didn't do shit. Like like
Yeah, no, yeah, that was the best. That was the moment of reveal, wasn't it? That was the truth because like he pulls off the headband. I just didn't know what was going to happen. That's interesting. You thought it was going to be like something bloody. I thought it was just like I just didn't know. I was just that's what's incredible for me to be watching the 10th Saw movie,
you
and I'm
still don't know
sat
what's
there.
gonna happen.
I have no idea what's going to happen now, and that's very impressive. This is like the one of the least predictable films I've ever seen in terms of
Hmm.
just like I couldn't even tell you 3 things that I would have thought could have happened, or even one thing. I'm just like I just don't know.
Hmm.
The filmmakers have me in the palm of their hand for this moment. So he takes the bandage off, and he's completely fine. And then my first thought was like, I knew it, Saw 3. I knew it, man. It was like I knew that was had to be like real, man. But obviously John's fuming. He gets the tequila, he like dashes it on the ground, smashes, and he's like, oh, he's mad. And then I'm like, okay, this is okay. Now shit's gonna go down. Do you know what I mean? um, so then we cut to the taxi driver Diego, and he's dropping off a customer, and then someone else gets in the back, and he's like, "Oh, in Spanish,
Oh yeah, where are we
you know,
going?
okay, mate, yeah, where are we going?" And it's like to hell, and then pulls the thing over him. And then he wakes up in our second trap of the film, the knife arm bomb trap, as I've written
Yeah,
it down.
just like no real name for this thing. It's like I don't know.
What do you think of this trap?
This is probably one of the worst. Yeah, this is probably one of the worst traps in the film because like you have to literally like good. Well, not even you don't even have a sword. It's like some like you basically have two like knives on the ends of your hands.
Hmm.
And you've got to like cut like these bombs out of your arms with some like I don't know if they like cable tied them in or something like.
Yeah, it was kind
He's
of
got
weird, wasn't it?
these like
No, it
looping
was
cords
made
going
with
through his arm.
yeah, it was what was it? Galvanized steel, I think it was. The cords are made of galvanized steel, so he's got these knives, right? And they're sort of duct taped to his hands, and he actually uses it to he does like the smart thing, which is cuts his rope because he's tied to something, right? And then he's like he cuts it open, and you're like, oh, okay, cool. That's what I would have done. Because that's the point of Saw movies. Because everyone's like, oh yeah, I could have got out of it this way, and he's like, he does the first thing you would do, and he steps forward, and obviously, um, Yeah, and then he's like looking. So he's got these. It's strange. Yeah, you're right. He's got like these bombs which are like kind of the same shape as like a radio unit in a car, like back in the day, cassette player. So you have that like on his arm, sewn in presumably. And what I like about this trap though is that John Kramer is in full view. There's like this panel of glass there, and he's just stood there, just watching, just like, yeah, fuck you, man. What are you gonna do now? And obviously then we get
this guy does try to smash
sword tape as well. Yeah. Sorry, what'd you say?
The window, but obviously it's reinforced, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's true.
You know.
But then this tape comes down, and it's like the classic, and then I'm like, yeah, now this is like really feeling like a Saw film. So and the tape, is like, and it's a classic, hello Diego, or should I call you Dr. Cortez, which is so good. And then he's like, okay, and then this is the thing though. We get our first 3-minute trap, and I feel like this is one. If I had to change something about this movie, there are a few things that are coming up that I would, but I think probably the main one would be these 3-minute traps. Way too long for a Saw trap, especially when.
100%.
I mean, yeah, I get it because
the first one's a minute.
They need more time. These traps are quite complex. Not complex, but like they're quite detailed, right? They involve sort of 2 or 3 steps each of them, right? Which I'm like, okay, that's kind of interesting, but then at the same time, a 3-minute Saw trap, it's too long. They should be 60 seconds. They're always, or 90 maximum, right?
Yeah, 90 is the max,
Yeah, 3 minutes is a long time, especially in a Saw trap, right? I mean, imagine going back through all the other Saw traps, and if they had 3 minutes instead of 1, it would have been a totally different series, I think. But anyway,
yeah, John Crane might have actually saved a few more people, but by his own logic.
Anyway, so obviously this guy's got no choice but to slice these. He has to slice, basically put the bombs off his arm. So he starts off with his left arm, tears it off, and there's like this chunk of flesh at the end. It's pretty grim. And he does it to and with the right one, he's like, he has to tear it off with his teeth, and it's like, okay, again, and then you get the explosion, the bombs go off, and you're like, okay, and that's kind of reminiscent of Saw 6 as well, because William has the bombs strapped to his ankles and wrists, right? We never see them go off, but I don't think. But yeah, anyway.
Yeah, they should have just made them blow up at the end of the film.
Yeah, and then John Kramer comes down and like brings him a med kit. He's like, "Oh, okay, you passed your test," It's just kind of weird seeing, I don't know, like that happen. I don't know. I feel like this guy again. So far, the traps that we've seen, okay, the eye gouging one is obviously bad. But to actually beat it, you have to break fingers. This guy had to. Okay, you've probably lost a lot of, like a fair amount of flesh there, but again, these are traps from like you're getting off pretty lightly compared to what we've seen before, but. Anyway, the guy passed, and especially this guy was the doctor as well. I feel like this guy is like one of the biggest parts of the scam. And
I originally thought this guy was the driver or something. No, I swear this guy was the driver.
He was the driver, but also Dr. Cortez. That's why he goes, hello Diego, should I call you Dr. Cortez? It's like this guy was doubling up. So yeah. Sure. Anyway, and then Don gets on the phone and he goes, detective, I could use your help locating some people who are in need of our services. So you're like, so because obviously, me and Henry, obviously, like for anyone who doesn't know, we're like, the biggest Mark Hoffman fans out here, right? If you want to go back on our channel, go to our shorts and look at the Mark Hoffman edit. Yeah.
Yeah, but you might have to take a break every half hour, because it's not having it on loop.
Yeah, right. We're watching this. So we're watching this film. We're obviously, as soon as we found out about Saw X, we're like, oh, is Mark Hoffman going to be in it? I hope he's in it. And we're watching it, and we're like, and then this happens, and it's like, oh, detective, and it's detective. He doesn't say Hoffman, and you don't see him. You hear him a little, I think, but you don't hear him. You just hear him say. John just says, oh yeah, detective, and you're like, oh shit, that can only mean one person, right?
Yeah.
So he teases us there. Anyway, then we cut over to Valentina. Obviously So I mean, the whole movie is funny because the plot is like revolving around John Kramer getting scammed effectively, right? Which is like,
Yeah.
I don't know,
Well,
kind
he
of
is.
like
He
okay,
is. He actually is in the demographic for people who get scammed the most. So
well, yeah, that's true. But then you're thinking John Kramer is supposed to be like, one of the more one of the I assume is like one of the high IQ, very
senior
high IQ like
citizens.
movie characters, right? I mean, this guy is like all about anticipation and not and anticipating human reactions and stuff. So you'd think this guy's like would, but then again, this is the thing. Like this is the whole point. He's like so desperate in his in his how far he is into his cancer condition that he's like his illness. He's like, of course he's going to go for it, and he's been recommended by Henry and stuff. So he's like, okay, and obviously he's been scammed so bad, and that's the great thing this film achieves. I feel like us as an audience, we got scammed with him because we're like seeing him go on this journey, and it's like all nice and like okay, we're confused, but we're happy for John, right? And he's gonna throw away the sword traps and stuff. You're like, oh wow, this is nice. And then he's been scammed, and then you're like, yeah. And that's what's very clever about this film. It really gets you like, okay, now I can't wait to see him punish these guys. Usually it's we wait, with previous Saw films, we see these people in the trap, and then it's explained why they're in there and then they get punished. So okay,
Yeah.
you just roll with it. With this one, we get all the build up. We let it gets to marinate.
We basically get like a round trip of like John and also Amanda basically kidnapping all these people.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. It's still a Saw movie, but done in like a different order to usually.
Actually, yeah. That's
So yeah,
even that's
we
even
go to Valentina, right?
yeah. It does remind me as well though. I mean, because there's I don't really know. Is there much like noteworthy to say about how they get kidnapped most of the time?
Well, this one, I feel like,
It's not
yeah,
like
it's
Dr.
just funny to
Gordon
me that
moment where like
Valentina's like basically seems to be like a hooker or an escort, right, in this nightclub, and it's just like, well, okay, she hasn't got a cut of the scam yet, obviously, because she's still doing this.
yeah
Um, so yeah, she hasn't got her cut of the money yet, but she gets pushed in a car by some guy, and then she gets saved but also kidnapped. Um, and then we catch up with Matteo. He's again, he hasn't got his cut either because he's working in a vet.
yeah.
He's
That's the
and
thing that
he's selling
reminded me. It's another Breaking Bad sort of Better
another
Call Saul
Breaking
thing.
Bad.
The
Yeah,
guy
yeah,
who
yeah, yeah.
works in the vet, he's a criminal. Well, he's not a
Yeah,
criminal.
he's
He just
selling
hooks
drugs to
criminals up.
Gabriella, so they know each other. Um, and what I like is, obviously there's this moment, and this is where, we don't usually get these moments in Saw movies. Obviously, we get kidnapping scenes, especially in like I think Saw 3 and no, in all of them
Don't
really, because gets
don't
kidnapped.
forget the OG kidnapping though of Dr. Gordon and the like best timed photo taking of all time.
Yeah, man. Yeah, you got all of them. Yes, so there's kidnappings aren't something, but what's impressive to me is that this is done in more of a traditional horror movie style, I think, where it's all about the the anticipation, the build up, right? And
I remember. That
and
just brought me
in
back
this what I like
to.
about this one is that all the dogs go from barking, they're just suddenly silent,
Hmm.
and it's like, oh shit, like and then obviously that's enough said. Gabriella gets kidnapped in the toilet. What's funny is she pulls out a pepper spray and then she gets like
Yeah,
pepper
pepper
sprayed
sprayed
with her
by
own spray.
Amanda. Yeah,
That's a bit of an L, yeah. Um,
it's like
and then
that
the final
wasn't
kidnapping.
necessary to be honest.
Yeah, that was a bit overkill, but yeah. Then the final kidnapping is Dr. Peterson. She gets kidnapped in her own home. As she's on the blower to some old lady, and she's like, "Oh, I'm
Yeah,
not an
I'm not an
angel."
angel, darling.
She literally and she picks up John Kramer's like scrunched up picture, throws it in the bin as well, and you're like, "Fuck, man!" And
Yeah,
these
as
wads of
well.
cash it's got as well.
I would
Um,
also like to point out a very clever costume design choice. The first time she's on the phone to John, she's dressed in all white, and this time she's dressed in all black. Now that obviously that
oh,
she's scamming.
bravo,
Yeah,
Bint.
really deep.
And and then obviously, yeah, you've got the she's like she hears some noises and she's like, yeah, I've got a gun. Obviously she doesn't, but
Yeah,
she's like, and
checks
then
out
she's like looking on
CCTV.
the monitors, she's looking in the garden and stuff, and then she looks at and this is a great horror movie moment, even though this is something I'm not ever expecting from a Saw movie, but I'm glad they did it. You just get this moment where you see on the roof. You're looking around, you're like, okay, where's the pig man? And then he's on the roof, and he just like throws a rock down. It's like boom. It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, but it's like, this is still cool, right? And then obviously she goes and runs into her car, opens up the garage door. There's a pig man out the front. She's going to ram him down, but then someone comes out from the back seat and bang, and then it's like unmasked. It's John, and then unmasked. It's Amanda. Amanda's back, just like that. I think the scene goes on for a little bit too long because like they start having a full blown chat with with Dr. Peterson while she's being knocked out. So, but yeah, it's and obviously we see Amanda in true Amanda fashion also has one of the worst wigs of all time. I feel sorry for Shawnee Smith. She's just been given over the series the worst wigs of all time. Do you remember that thing in Saw 2?
What was this thing? Oh like yeah, that was like it's funny because like I think I remember
she looks
in the
like
early
Elle
from
Death Note. She's got that hair.
It literally does.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
But in this one, she's just got this Stranger Things haircut this time. I don't know. And anyway, yeah. So she's there, but she's still looking good. I mean, considering this is 20 years on. I think 20 or 19 years on from Saw, the original one. She's aged. I mean, she's not aged. Okay, she's aged as you would expect her to, but she's still like in good shape, etc. So, it didn't take me out too much. Obviously, her face has aged a little bit, but otherwise, she's like still looking good. John looks exactly the same because he's like Jonathan Banks, just born old, right?
He's been old since like. He was old in like the original Saw, like let alone now.
Exactly.
But he hasn't changed that much though. So
no, not at all. Which obviously helps the fact. I mean, they didn't really. And anyway, if they need to de-age John, they just do the old.
Yeah, exactly.
So
classic.
There's always that option. But anyway, so then obviously we cut to the main event, the sword trap room, if you want to call it. So John's in the space of I don't know how long he's managed to kidnap all these people and convert the clinic into a room full of saw traps.
Yeah,
how he did that I don't know. Yeah, but anyway, so and it's weird to me because this is the first Saw film where they're like setting up the traps in front of the victims. Usually they just wake up. I prefer it that way where it's like they just wake up and then they're in there and then they play the tapes. But in this one, for some reason, they decided to go and like, oh yeah, John and Amanda. It's like you're seeing behind the curtains all the setup, and they all get to have a good chat with them as well. It's just strange to me. And like John's like, and they do it in a weird order because he explains one of the traps first, and then he goes on his like preachy, his message basically, and then more trap. But I found there was a lot of dialogue here between the victims and John and Amanda, which just wasn't necessary. He can convey everything he needs to over the tape. That served well in all the other films. In this one, I don't know. It's strange to me. It felt like to me that, I mean, and this becomes evident later on, John has way less control in this film than he usually does. I don't know if they're just trying to make him more of like a vulnerable protagonist, if they did it for that reason, but I don't know. Anyway, he's setting up the traps.
In this case as well, it also might have something to do with the fact that they are. It's also the fact that this is really like almost rushed for him because he got it set up like so quickly, and also so that imagine I mean you have 24 hours to sign saw traps for 4 or 5 people, and you have to make it all like work, and also bear in mind other things that might happen.
Right.
Actually, 7 saw traps he sets up in this. Eighth, because you got for Cecilia, Valentina, Diego, Gabriella, the guy who was the taxi driver. So that's 5. Yeah. You have the one, the one in the control room, and also the one he's set up in his head.
And the
so that's 7.
No, that would have been. Okay. Well, anyway, he has set up a lot of traps here, but then he's explaining the first one, right, about the Jilly saw, and and you get it's like, I love the John Kramer like voice, the accent, because he's like in the previous films when he's like it will crush your body, whatever. In this case, he's like sever your spinal cord, you know, the way he says that, oh, Dr. Gordon, you know, it's like those kind of
It's like
the
John
Kramer
Kramer ASMR, you know, this release.
I love it. And it's weird because he's explaining this, and then there's like in this moment there was like some really weird music for me. It's like it was like some very conflicting moods in this part of the film. There's like some strange choices going on there, but then it's I think in this part of the film, because obviously it's transitioning from the almost like a feel good story at the first hour of the film, so now it's like, okay, now it's a Saw film, so like there's still some transition pains there, I guess, but anyway. Peterson and Peterson as well. Dr. Peterson, she's still pretending that like, oh, you know, we were only trying to help you and stuff. Like, I don't know how dumb she thinks just because he got, maybe it's because he got scammed and now she thinks he's like a real idiot. I don't know, but like, it's weird. But then again, it's revealed because, you know, obviously they expose her. John exposes that she's done this to like 33, 34 people already.
Yeah.
And she's been doing it for 8 years as well.
Yeah, and all these people are dead as well by this point.
Right. And so I suppose by that point, yeah, your ego would be like, like way gone, right? That's where she's at. And during this time, I was thinking, you know, what about Henry? You know, like,
yeah,
I'm
that's
thinking,
what I thought as well. I was like, yeah, but that guy did get treated. I assumed that, okay, maybe he did get treated in Norway by her dad because her dad's actually like, you know, real.
Yeah.
Does that
I'm
mean
thinking
that her
maybe that
dad's in
side
on
is
it?
legit. I don't know. Like, yeah.
Yeah, because there would be no reason for
I'm
him to
surprised.
mention it in
Now
Saw
I'm thinking
6.
about it, I'm surprised she never, part of her bullshitting, she was never like, what about Henry? You met Henry? Because he mentions her over the phone. He name checks her, name checks him, right? He's like, oh, my friend Henry recommended. And it's like, oh, you know, she should have, if she was really smart, she'd have played on that. And then maybe, I don't think she'd have fooled him because he was that mad. But yeah, it was just like,
Yeah, but this is
I
the
don't
thing.
know.
That's
It's
what
just
makes
confusing
me.
to me as well.
It's what makes me
It's just
wonder though,
confusing
because
to me.
her dad might have been legit because, like, John Kramer literally mentions he's still talking about him in Saw 6 when he wants to go do his thing in Norway. So I'm guessing, what, does he come out of hiding or something and he's actually like real?
Yeah, you're right. Now I'm just thinking he does actually say Norway, a treatment in Norway, doesn't he? In Saw 6. Shit, that's amazing. That's like, I don't know. I'm gonna make another Better Call Saul reference here, but it's like, you know how they linked like Lalo, you know when
And Ignacio, yeah.
Saul Goodman gets kidnapped and it's like, oh, did Lalo send you? You know, it's like, is it Lalo? And then they just never mention him again, and then you go back to Better Call Saul, and it's like, oh, then it explains it all, you know. Yeah, now I'm thinking, oh, yeah, that's what it reminded me of that kind of callback. I'm like, oh wow, they actually managed to link it back there. It's like very clever. But yeah, so he goes and Dr. P, yeah, so Valentina's trap begins. She's got the ghillie saw, and
Yeah, I got 3 minutes as well for saying that should take 60
yeah,
seconds.
3 minutes. And she's got to chop her own leg off and then extract bone marrow from like the stump.
Disgusting.
So she doesn't get decapitated. This is a pretty brutal trap.
Yeah, because it's like it's bandaged, you have to chop your leg off, but then extract bone marrow, man, like with the vacuum, the slowest vacuum on earth, mind you.
This is my thing. I think like, yeah, John was definitely tampering with the dials in this film. You know, like, you know, these traps, he's like definitely fucking with them because he doesn't want any of these people.
This is literally like a rigged fairground ride. Like half of these, he would have been sick at that.
It's crazy because like you said, it's another 3-minute trap and it's way too long.
Yeah, this shouldn't be 3 minutes. Like this one in particular should, maximum. Yeah, it should be 60 seconds, easy.
Yeah, I think like, I mean the ghillie saw. I'm not sure I'd say it now, but it's I mean the motion of it and stuff is like cool and interesting and unique, right? But I'm thinking, well, you know, why not? You know, she's got to lower a chainsaw onto her leg or something because that make it a lot quicker and more dramatic. And then I don't know, and then extract. I don't know. The bone marrow thing was like very. I don't know. It's like, but
anyway, you forgot one thing when during the instructions he was like, "Oh yeah, the key to your freedom's inside this box." She's like, "There is no fucking key in here." And then like Amanda's like, he was speaking metaphorically.
Oh yeah,
he does that a lot.
Yeah, like, I think Amanda's comedy relief was a bit
There are only a couple times where it was bad. But it was really bad.
It felt terrible the first time watching, right? But the second time I was like, it's okay, it's Amanda, you know, like It didn't actually feel that out of place this on the rewatch. I don't know about you. I felt a lot better about Amanda the second time than the first
Oh
time.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's kind of like that is her personality. Like you see it, especially in like Saw 3 more so. But
Mm.
there are a couple like one-liners which was terrible, and I think that was one of them.
Yeah, definitely.
Because it just
Um,
undercuts like the entire mood, and John Crane is standing right there, like saying something how they're gonna chop their own leg off, and it's like
exactly. And this is where I'm like, I don't know. This is why I don't like this format of trap where they're actually there physically present having a chat with the victims, because then it's open to things like this, and it's like, no, that doesn't take place. She could have just listened to all that on a tape, and then that would make it more of a B plot, or not a B plot, but you have like, all the Saw films have had B plots, right? I think pretty much.
yeah, and
And
this would be just Amanda and John in the break room, like having some coffee.
yeah, this is one thing this film lacked compared to the other ones. I mean, I don't think it made it worse for it, but there was no B plot. I mean, there were no police in this one. There were no cops, right? So they didn't have that side of things, which they're in every. This is the first Saw film, by the way, which doesn't have a cop sort of B story. I felt like maybe that could have not wouldn't have to be cops, but you can have the traps happening while John and Amanda having this, having their.
I mean,
moments. But
there's
anyway.
no police because it's set in Mexico, so
Yeah,
matter.
right. That's true. But anyway, so then, so John's, fucked with the dial, obviously, because like she actually does chop her leg off, and then she injects like the thing into her fucking the bone,
The
like
femur, yeah.
Yeah, even thinking about that, it's like horrific, man. So
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
they
like,
did a great
that's
job of like
way too
grossing.
much.
It takes a lot to gross me out, man. But this one, I'm like, oh
Oh, and the
man,
worst
like
is like
I'm
you get
struggling
like
to
it
watch it.
goes through the vacuum really slowly, and like you see it going through like what's it called, like a sieve almost, and there's like all this like
Yeah,
bone fat on it, like and there's like the marrow going through. It's like disgusting.
mm. It's
And then
grim, yeah, man.
yeah, and he's got like this dial that's moving down like unfathomably slowly, and it's like even slows down more
Yeah.
and more as it gets to
And the whole
the
time
actual
as well, you've
target.
got Dr. Peterson hyping her up and trying to motivate, like, yeah, you can do it, go, go, go. It's like, what the fuck? I feel like that
Oh
actress of
yeah,
Dr. Peterson was like very strange. Like, I don't know if it was because of her accent or because of her. I don't know. There's something like, obviously it was good. She did a great job of like being someone that I was like really freaked out by. I'm like, this person's a fucking psycho, But at the same time, I'm like, just felt a bit jarring sometimes when the camera cuts to her saying something. I'm like, oh, okay.
kind of yeah. But
I,
you've also got like the reaction shots from the Messi lookalike in the corner. He's like, oh, like
yeah,
that guy never shuts up. Honestly, like I
yeah,
don't know.
yeah, yeah. It
It's like
was, yeah, it was,
overplayed.
and
I
they're all
think it
trying to
overplays
like
how shitty he
motivate
is.
to slice her own leg off, man. I wouldn't have done any of that shit, man. I'd just take the
I would, yeah, that's like a no-brainer.
decapitation.
Oh, I'm not chopping my leg off or sticking that in there. I'm just gonna like wait and get like my head chopped off, to be honest.
Yeah, because best case scenario. This is what we always say with Saw traps. What's the best case scenario? You don't even walk away from this one. So I mean,
Yeah, exactly. You
I,
have to learn hopscotch, man. Oh, I guess you could get a
yeah.
prosthetic, but like I
Mm.
don't know how like extracting much bone marrow would like fuck you up. And the thing is as well is like when did John Kramer just think, oh yeah, it has to be 350 grams? That then she'll know, not like 200 or something. It's like
Yeah.
whatever.
I don't know. Anyway, so her 3 minutes are up. She gets decapitated, and you're like, okay, damn. Um,
Mm.
Amanda has this sort of emotional moment 'cause she's feeling sorry for a fellow crackhead,
A fellow
Gabriella.
druggie who she like pepper sprayed point blank for like 5 minutes straight.
Yeah. Um, and she sort of has like this heart to heart with John. I think this is where they like they sort of sheds a tear, and you're like, whoa, okay, this is not what I'm expecting out of a Saw film, but fair enough. And then in the meantime, while they're doing that, Peterson notices that I think her phone rings, right, and it's on the middle of a cart that's in between them. For some reason, that's been left there. That's just stupid to me. That although
Maybe it's
actually, yeah, when you get
intentional.
to the end of the film, it's like, oh yeah, that was intentional, I suppose. So yeah, you've got the cart in the middle,
Yeah, that's actually
and
no, that must be a callback to the original Saw though, because the phone in the middle they can't reach.
oh yeah, that's true. Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they go and like, and they're like, oh, how are we gonna get it? Can we take our clothes and like get it? And she's like, no. Peterson has a better idea. She goes into Valentina's corpse and like tears her intestines out and then uses that as a rope. So this is gross as
Grimace
well, man.
rope.
It's one of those
Yeah, it's like
moments.
It's like one
Yeah.
like part of it gets like stuck under one of the wheels and then like gets pulled through. It's like
Mm,
disgusting, man. And
yeah,
it's
proper.
fun. It's funny as well because it's like I don't know if it was intentional, but it kind of like she's like pulling this rope, like she's literally using someone's intestines. It's like kind of like she's like a puppet master almost.
Yeah, kind of. It's like it's really good the way it's like it's very unsettling and it's like, but it's not a trap. So it's like they've managed to
Yeah,
do the gore, but without it being in a trap. And sort of movies have done that before, and it's like just a moment that grosses you out that isn't even a trap. So yeah, and
Mm.
it's obviously the creativity of it having to be passed. Sorry, not my mic there. It having to be passed around and everything. It's like super gross. Um, so she gets the phone and then she makes a call, but then she gets tased by Amanda, and she keeps trying to bullshit John that
I
I
was
was just
calling my
calling my
dad.
father so he can save you. Yeah, man. It's like, oh, okay. Um, and then during this moment, Billy Butcher he returns and he busts into the warehouse and gets knocked out by Amanda. Um, and then he has a chat with John. He wakes up and he's like tied to the chair in the control room with Amanda and John.
So yeah,
And
I'm
this
here
is
to
the
get my
moment
money
where John,
back.
yeah, he's like, oh man, to get my money back for those
But
bastards as
however he
well.
found the place, but
Yeah. Um, yeah, right, exactly. And then John's like, oh, and it's like, oh, you guys are fucking psychos. You lot are killers, It's like, we don't kill. He doubles down on like all of the
yeah,
previous
it's like I
movies,
never
like
killed anyone.
killing
Like
is distasteful. All of those lines is like he doubles down, and once again he's like, we don't kill here, It's like, okay.
yes, big
um,
no. Yeah, the thing is, yeah, also something I forgot to mention is, I mean, most people who are watching this probably already seen the film anyway, but it's the fact that this guy, yeah, it makes no sense how he managed to make it there because John only managed to find out his places by triangulating using his like, what was it? He used to be a civil engineer or something, so he saw like a radio tower and he's like, oh yeah, I can figure
yeah,
this
it's
out. He does
very
it. It's like
fast and loose. Yeah.
in his source sketchbook, trying to figure that
No,
out.
no, but obviously Billy Butcher
He's
knew where it was because he
Oh yeah, obviously
literally
he knows, but
he's
like
in
to
on it,
John,
right?
it was probably
We
immediately
don't know that
obvious.
at the time, but yeah, you are at the moment like, oh, how the fuck has this guy
This
found it?
guy
But yeah,
also
he's
turned
like,
up 5 minutes later after he called us, so it's like,
yeah, and this is the thing, but because there's so much going on already, he's just like a cypher, so you're not focusing on him too much, which
yeah,
is,
he slips
it's
through the
like it's
cracks a bit.
confusing, but you don't really have the time to think about it because you're like, okay, let's sort of move on to the next
Yeah,
trap.
next
Because
trap.
who comes out the door? But Billy the puppet, he's back. Um, so he appears from Mateo's trap. He's dragging a cart behind him, which
Yeah,
has
it's
some
like a
surgical station, I think you call
yeah.
that. I love just shout out the little POV shot they had from the tray, like following him around. I love that.
Could you
Um,
imagine? I just like to imagine like if they're like deleted scenes or like bloopers, whatever, of like John Crow and Amanda like waiting around for like the sun to go down. They're just using like Boo the puppet to have like a confectionery tray behind him or some shit. Like
yeah, maybe. But anyway, so obviously on this tray there's a tape. So he starts playing it, and it's like it's a really complicated trap, because it's like, oh, you have to dissolve your brain, and then it's there, and then you got the key, da da da.
yeah, I mean it
But
boils down to
basically, yeah,
this guy's got to
he has to
lobotomize
perform
himself.
he has to perform brain surgery
Because
on himself.
he's the brain surgeon. So
Right, and thanks to Saw 3, we know what a perfect brain surgery looks like, right?
hmm.
So, so we see it happen. This guy has to perform brain surgery upon himself. Henry, what do you think of this trap? Because this is fucked up, man.
Oh, it is fucked up because like he had to like because he looks up and he's got like the grainiest like camera feed of sort of the top of someone's head, but he looks at it and he realizes it's his own head. So it's like I mean this is basically the same situation John was in more or less. But yeah, it's like he has to perform a lobotomy on himself, and it's kind of like I like how Amanda's already shaved his head like in the right spot for it.
Hmm.
So like there must have been like an interlude where she had to like give him a haircut basically. Um but it's like yeah, because he gets like a bone saw thing kind of so he can
Yeah.
basically drill out a circle in his skull and then he has to like pick out a piece of his brain and then
Yeah.
drop it
Well,
in the
sorry, which
actual
he does perfectly, by the way. I don't know how he
it's
manages to
not
cut
really
a
that perfect to
perfect
be honest.
circle.
It's not really that perfect to be fair. And also bear in mind, this guy drops the piece of his skull on the floor, so it doesn't even matter if he gets to a hospital after this, he's fucked. Like gonna have to live like a
Yeah, I'm thinking. I'd really like to know how medically accurate this is. I mean, with previous Saw films, I'm pretty sure they've always done a good job of being like medically accurate. Like trying to be as spot on as possible. With this one, I'm like, I am sure you would pass out. You know, like
probably.
I
Yeah, because
mean,
he doesn't get
probably with most
anesthetic.
saw traps would, but this one in particular, I'm like, I'm sorry, you can't drill into your own skull, man. I'm sure there's like your brain would just shut down your body just to, I don't know, but that's
Maybe
what
it's
made
just
this.
the adrenaline.
That kind of took me out of it, but like this trap is so like gruesome. You're like, whoa, this is like. I think of all the traps, this might be. Well, we're going to rank the traps anyway at the end, so we'll have
This
that
is a
conversation
contender
then.
for
But
the
yeah,
worst trap I think of all time.
yeah, he like pulls a little bit of his own brain out, his brain tissue, grey matter.
Yeah, and he's got like
Um,
40 seconds or something, or I don't know, 30 seconds. And it's like,
oh yeah,
oh,
right.
yeah, let's just wait for John's like, A-level chemistry to go through, and then like this thing's dissolving at like the slowest possible speed. And like the
Yeah,
dial's going towards
John's
it's not even the
yeah,
dial's
his
going towards
dodgy
turning the
dial once
trap off.
again.
The dial's going towards a thing opening so you can get a key. And then I thought it was like, oh yeah, he's gonna get the key and he's like 2 seconds left and he fumbles it or drops it or something. But no, he doesn't even get to the key stage. Like it's like, oh yeah,
Yeah,
oh you
instead,
get out of your chair, you've got to jump, do like a triathlon before you get the key to get out or some shit. It's like it's one of the things I don't like about some of the traps, like in Saw in general, because it's like,
yeah, and it's like this is one of those traps. It's like okay, even if you walk away from that, you've literally got a hole in your head. Like your brain is literally exposed to the elements. So, I don't know what you would do. Like I feel like, I mean, it would be. Can you imagine how satisfying it would be though to pick up the circle of skull again and just pop it back in? Like
well, no, because it's built on the floor, like of that place as
well,
well. It's like
of course, yeah, but I'm sure that would still feel quite satisfying.
the guy
Anyway,
didn't even have gloves on
um,
it. Anyway,
no,
sanitary
no.
nightmare that
Anyway,
place.
he fails his trap, so an Aztec mask closes around his face and basically brass balls him. So yeah, he dies very, very horrifically, man. um, and then it's Gabriella's turn. She looks up and Billy's just staring at her, which is like kind of funny moment.
Yeah,
Um,
he's got like a tape on him as well.
yeah, and she dashes this tape. She like throws it away, and I don't like that. I don't like that. This is where I'm like, okay, because for that to happen, it means John's not in control of the game. But she throws the tape away, and he's like, oh, that won't do. So he tells her the instructions live instead.
Hmm.
So her trap, I think, is probably the weakest out of in this movie because she's like her ankle and wrist are chained up, right, and she's like sort of hoisted into the air. And the interesting bit for me is that she has what's it called? Like this mobilized radiation machine
Yeah, because it's all
positioned,
chained up, but
yeah,
it's like
towards her,
being
right?
on like a pulley system.
But then with her free hand, she can go and pick up like this sledgehammer and then swing it at her ankle to break it, so she can get out of the chain, and then her wrist while she's being burnt by this radiation machine. Now, I think the burning bit is like probably the bit where I'm like, okay, this is the best part of this trap, if you want to use
Yeah.
those terms. So I just thought, it was just weird to me, like how would she actually get the precision to swing from there and like the angle and not drop the hammer, etc. It's like it was a really weird trap for me.
The one
I'm sure
thing
they could
is,
have
I
done.
think
Yeah,
with her trap, especially, one of the things I like about it is the fact that it doesn't fit her crime at all. Like basically, all she did was deceive like John. Like I mean, not to say that that wasn't bad, but she kind of just played an extra role in making the place look legit and be like,
yeah,
yes, my family on the wall, and then it's like,
yeah.
and
Yeah,
actually
yeah, that's
technically,
true
if
as
it
well.
technically,
I mean, if you're gonna like drown her in boiling tequila or something, then it's like okay, then I don't know.
yeah,
Yeah, this trap was just. It felt like at this point they'd gone, oh yeah, what we're gonna do with Gabriella? I don't
no,
know.
yeah, it'd be like,
We've got the
oh,
radiation machine, we can use that, and then I don't know. This is like a very
what they
weak
should
trap
have
for
done
me.
instead, they should have had Gabriella behind like in front of a curtain, and it's like, by the way, Gabriella, after finding the photo prints out, here's your whole family. Like you got to choose who. It's like just the got to choose who lives
Yeah,
or
man.
dies.
What my favorite part of this trap is when she actually she does her ankle and she's just like hanging from her arm, but she's swung out of position from the machine, and then it just goes and moves right back into her position.
Yeah.
You're like, oh shit! It keeps burning us. You're like, oh fuck. Obviously, she does get out. She just sort of collapses onto the floor. And then at this moment, Billy Butcher marches in. He's got
a gun in hand.
So there was a moment where John was like, "Oh, you're going to play a game with us now, but no guns. That's the one rules." And he puts the gun like in front of him, more or less. You know,
Yeah, it's like, yeah, all right, Batman.
Yeah, just don't touch this gun, please.
Yeah, in this unlocked, you know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Like
cabinet.
anyway, so obviously he does he goes gets the gun and he's like pointing it at John and Amanda. He marches them down the stairs, and he goes up to Dr. Peter's. Oh yeah, you know I'd die for you, baby. It's like this really weird moment, but I don't know.
Yeah, there's also one thing I realized. Like, the actress who plays Cecilia is really tall. Like,
yeah. Again, this is
like 6 foot or something.
Always bugs me, man, when you've got like. I don't know, like it happens all the time. Again,
but it's just from Norway, so
Breaking Bad so much. Yeah, it's like you know Hank and Marie or like Skylar and Walt. It's like it just doesn't look
well,
right.
It has to be more. But I mean, it makes like you know what happens later more believable as well, though. So
true. Well, anyway, this is I don't know how to feel about this part of the movie because they make John get into his own trap. At gunpoint, obviously, and they make Amanda lock herself up as well. She can't be involved.
Yeah, because they were originally. I think they were going to put her in the trap with him,
which they should have done. I think that would have been a really much better option than what actually did happen. But before they do that, Peterson kills Gabriella, which is like that was like that really like Amanda's like because Amanda felt sorry for her already, and then Gabriella actually got out of her trap, but then Dr. Peterson actually kills her, which is like. I don't know. I felt a bit bad for Gabrielle at this point because I'm like, you know what, she actually got out of the trap. So then, like, I suppose it's meant to make you hate Dr. Peterson more, but I think at this point, no one likes her.
No
anyway.
one liked her, to be honest.
She keeps going. She kills Gabriella, and then Amanda does like nothing but scream. I mean, she's at gunpoint, but still, I think I don't know. And then she's like, Dr. Peterson's like, oh yeah, you know what I thought when I saw them all die? One less person to split the money with. And that could be a contender for a Sigma quote, to be fair, because I mean, let's be honest. Like, if anyone else said that, we'd be like, yeah, definitely Sigma. So, like, I think Dr. Peterson might have to end up with a Sigma quote of this film, but we'll see. And then obviously, and then Butcher suggests, I keep calling him Billy Butcher. What's his actual name? Parker, I think, right?
Yeah, Parker.
It's like Parker, the British guy. He's like he suggests putting Amanda in the trap with John, but then Dr. Peterson so she's like no. She just hears this sound and she looks up and Carlos is playing football at 5 a.m. obviously while all this is happening. So she's like, oh, I know. I'm going to put this innocent boy's soul on your conscience, John. So she goes and gets Carlos down there, who must be like the producer's nephew or something. I don't know why he's like given this. I don't know. It's just such a John Kramer. Okay, he's being put in his own trap. Okay, this is strange, but okay, this is interesting. Why and then it's like. Okay, they imagine how much better this would have been if they put Amanda in there instead of this random Colombian kid. It just makes that just bothers me. I think if I could change one thing about this movie, I'd have just completely got rid of Carlos and put Amanda in this trap as well. That'd have been way more interesting.
Yeah, because
instead Amanda's just there like a lemon the whole time. She's just like an onlooker, which just doesn't make any sense to me.
One of the things with Saw is, I mean, we talked about the fact there are like 4 people in like traps, kind of amongst each other, talking to each other, which doesn't work a lot. But the main interest in the 2-person traps or even multi-person traps, where all their survival actually depends on the other people, that's where them talking to each other becomes more interesting. And this kid literally doesn't speak English, so it's like
yeah, exactly.
There's kind of nothing to it apart from, oh yeah, John Kramer fixed this kid's bike earlier, isn't that wholesome? And also he doesn't want to kill him, so he's a good guy. It's like I don't think you really need to have John Kramer like look like a good guy here, because you've already got the contrast of Cecilia, who isn't even like, I mean, obviously everyone knows like John Kramer's warped logic isn't the most sound, but Cecilia is also like, contrasted with her, she's like, oh, like she'll literally openly admit like, yeah, I scam people for like profit. So and like scams cancer patients, no less even. So it's like
Exactly.
I don't think you really need to like. I mean, you can clearly tell they're putting a lot of work to make her look terrible, and John to look slightly less terrible. And it's like, I don't think there
Yeah.
was that need for that work. And also, everyone who's watching this is almost certainly either a Saw fan or they already know who John Kramer is, so it doesn't really matter. You don't. There's not like a reputation there to be salvaged. So,
Yeah, exactly.
I
And he's
don't
about
know.
to be
I
put in a
agree with you.
trap as well.
They should just put Amanda in there.
Yeah, that'd have been 10 times better. I think this would have been just been a far better movie overall if Carlos just wasn't in it full stop.
Yeah,
Um, I mean,
shave
no
off
offense
about
to the
five
kid, I'm
minutes.
sure I hope he has a very like great acting career ahead of him, but
Mm.
just makes no sense in this film, especially like John speaking to him in Spanish as well. Just conveniently using the one word that we saw him learn earlier, hala. He's like, no hala, no hala, like don't pull. Um, it's just what I don't like about this is like John has completely lost control. There's a weird moment where he randomly grabs Dr. Peterson, and then Billy Butch goes and puts a knife to this kid's throat as well. You're like, what is going on here? Um, I don't know. And anyway, then this trap begins. So John and Carlos are like lowered
Yeah,
down, so
raised
they're
up
like
as well.
laying down on this plank. Um,
It's like a seesaw,
which
basically.
yeah, and then it starts like blood. It's like waterboarding, but bloodboarding. Um,
Mm.
where all this blood came from is a mystery to me, but anyway, they're getting well. They're both getting bloodboarded, and then John pulls the lever so he can get it more, and then the kid can breathe, right? And then he's like, no holla, no holla. It's like it's just weird, man. And then the kid does it anyway, right? And then John's like, I don't know. They managed to get out. And
Yeah,
in
but
the
John,
meantime,
the one thing
Billy.
I don't believe though is John's being like bloodboiled for like 2 minutes straight or something at one point.
Yeah,
I'm
man,
like,
this is like a 7-year-old cancer patient, and he's like, he's able to like, and this if his own. This is trap. It's weird to me, okay, because like, okay, now we get into like the whole reveal twist part, right, where
yeah, because
Billy
Cecilia's
Butcher they go and get the money back. They go to retrieve the money, but then he's like, oh, how come that was meant for two people when only you were here? And then the Saw music begins, right, and it's like, oh shit, and things. When the Saw
yeah, because they
music
pull the
kicks in,
bag off and there's a timer behind it. Like,
yeah, and it's like, and the soundtrack as well. I was looking at this morning. It's this score. This piece of score is called Zep 10. So that's a
wow.
fun fact. Yeah. Um, but yeah, the Saw music begins, and and it's like this is what we've all been waiting for. Because up until now, I don't like the fact that John's like totally completely lost control. That's like the whole point of his character in all the movies is that he's in control. And then at this point, okay, the scam's one thing. That's one thing. But at this point, it's like he's being put into his own trap at gunpoint. It just feels off to me. He's like he's like panicking. He like grabs her and then he's like, oh no, I don't
Well,
know.
in fairness though, he did, mess with the guy's gun. He didn't have working bullets. But he did put the casings back in the clip, so I'm like, well, you still get a casing through your skull. So actually, no, there's no gunpowder, so it wouldn't go off. Never mind.
Yeah. It's just weird to me that there's no just some of this doesn't quite add up. But I don't know. Either way, he survives his own trap, which is okay. Yes, it is surprising, but okay, we'll roll with it anyway. We're glad he survived it, right?
Yeah, he survives with one
and
of his own traps,
it
known for
brings
being
this.
fair.
This is definitely paying tribute to Saw, the original one as well, because in that movie, the twist in that movie is that he gets up from the floor and he's covered in this fake blood. That exact same thing happens here. The same music, the same moment in the movie. He raises up. He like rises from the dead, effectively, caked in blood. Which is like this just this moment to the music as well. The control room converts into a gas chamber. Um, and then you get all the reveals. Oh, Cortez is the one that snitched on Billy Butcher, and it's like, oh yeah, she's gonna burn you. You just can't see it yet. And then they start having this
Yeah,
fight.
it's fuck off, Amanda. Yeah,
Yeah,
maybe I didn't
yeah,
include
fuck off,
that
man.
bit
Yeah,
in.
we see that twice, which is like so unnecessary. But yeah, um, and anyway, so the whole point is that Cecilia and Billy Butcher they're like turning on each other, which
Yeah,
is oh yeah,
this is the
that was
thing.
really unpredictable. That
I
was the
think the
most
actress for
predictable part of this film.
Cecilia,
I think that was
yeah,
just
it's like
kind of
it
late.
was obviously going to be very kind of hard to find someone who would also like be somewhat matched in a fight. It's just the fact that she's giant kind of helps.
Yeah, that was kind of strange, but it's just this weird fight scene. While John's freeing himself and Carlos and Amanda from their traps.
Yeah. Well, also
And,
you also theorize this might be the same nerve agent they use in Saw 2, right?
Could have been, yeah. Slow acting nerve agent coursing through your veins. It does come back, yeah, because he sees this his flesh starting to rot. So anyway, Peterson obviously kills Parker, and then sticks her head through the tube so she can breathe. But then she's just left to rot in there anyway. So
yeah, I assume that authorities will get her or something. So
yeah, now this is where I'm like confused. Just before we like wrap up with the film, how I just don't understand, because he goes to Amanda. He's like, one way or another, this will play out. This will be fine. So how did John like predict this? Okay, so Billy Butcher comes to like save them. Okay,
yeah.
I get that. Were they meant to go into the seesaw trap? You presume so. So how did he have this whole office thing, the gas chamber ready as well?
Because he
Like,
probably
how
had
did he
two different ideas in mind. Because this guy could
Yeah,
come
I
armed.
guess. Like I guess he didn't predict that he'd end up in the. I mean, how? I'm sure that wasn't like part of his plan.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. Some of that stuff was like a bit like that was a bit unnecessary for me, and it was just like could have been just done a bit better.
Yeah, the ending's
I think the main thing would have certainly the main thing would have been just to put Amanda in the trap instead. But I guess they wanted to have Carlos there, so it like makes John a bit more more lovable. I don't know, like he's got this bond with
John
the kid.
Kramer and lovable, yeah. Now, one of the funny things
And then,
was,
to be fair, John. Yeah, go on. Sorry.
there's just the fact the actual like part of the ending as well. They like get all the actual money and then give it to the kid. Like, I mean, that's obviously nice, but his house is getting raided like within 30 seconds of him coming back. You know. Like,
Exactly.
you just give him a death sentence.
He's lasting 24 hours, man. Like, yeah, John just hands him like millions of dollars in his satchel. Like, yeah, you just, go on your way into the streets of Mexico with this. You'll be fine, man. You know, like,
yeah, he has to get home
know.
to start with. Actually, no, it's his son of the caretaker there. So
yeah, I don't know.
the
You just
caretaker
have
who's
this
not around.
It's weird. They walk out into they walk past Billy, by the way, and Amanda, him, and Carlos. They literally walk off into the sunset, and you're like,
Or sunrise
okay,
in this case.
and yeah, sunrise, whatever. Like the sun's there. Like and obviously most Saw films end with a closed door. This one ends with the door opening. So I don't know. And the sun's shining on them, and it's like this really weird, like feel good ending to a Saw film, and you sat there.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, and then the titles come on Saw X, and you're like,
what?
It's just a weird way. The first time watching it, I was like, I have no idea what I've just watched now. This is like the strangest Saw film I've ever seen. Not bad, but the second time we watched it, okay, so now we're getting into it. So like,
yeah, because the first time I
me and
I
Henry
needed a piss since like the second trap, so I had to like leave.
We fucked up.
I had to leave immediately. I was like, there's not going to be a
But
post-credit scene.
I didn't stop you at any point. We were there. We watched it the first time. We were like, okay, let's go then straight away. Like, and I think you must have suggested it, and I sat there. I was like, yeah, fine. Like, I didn't expect there to be Marvel. Like you said, Henry, Marvel films ruined this shit, man. Because like post-credit scenes. So we went. I just think we both assumed there wouldn't be one for Saw X.
Yeah, because it's been 9 films. There's never been one.
Let's go. You know. And then obviously during the week, we agreed we're going to watch it again, and then we saw like we'd both, and then when we met up, it both turned out we'd seen the same screenshot on Twitter, so we're like, oh, okay. So then we definitely stayed behind for the post-credits scene, and it did not disappoint, right?
Yeah, because it's like I was like, well, Henry's a loose end, but then he's in a trap.
It's the first time I was thinking, what the fuck's going on with Henry? And then it's amazing. It's like we're back. They I don't know. This is just brilliant. It's like they're back in the bathroom from the original series.
Yeah, which is where Hoffman currently is. So
Henry and Hoffman in the same room.
Yeah.
And Henry's so it's like I don't really know what Mark Hoffman is actually in Saw X. He's there, man. he's there. And I'm so pissed we didn't see that. We didn't experience that organically like the first time. The second, but the good thing is we only saw the tweet, right?
Yeah.
So we didn't see what we didn't realize it was happening in the bathroom as well. And Henry was there, which is
Yeah.
great. So there was still like that whole reveal there. We were like, oh shit. And Mark Hoffman's there, and he's like, oh, you fucked with the one guy, John Kramer. You know, I'd call that epic bad luck. It's
like
kind of a
that's
strange
like
thing for him to say.
yeah, literally, it's like it reminds me of when Saul Goodman says, like, "Oh yeah, that's what the kids call epic fail," but like that's obviously a joke. And then this like
Yeah,
what the writer's doing. Maybe it's like it's like obviously like tongue in cheek or something. Like they know what like Saw fans are like or something. Because obviously just
maybe
like
I don't know. It was amazing to actually see Mark Hoffman there. I was like, fuck. I'm just pissed they couldn't have like built the film around him. But you know, we do have Saw 11, right? That's definitely going to happen. So
well yeah,
now
I mean
that it's
given
confirmed,
this
I mean, it's not
film's quite
confirmed that he's
successful.
alive because obviously the last time we saw him was at the end of Saw 7, where he's in the bathroom, and funny enough, in this film he's in the bathroom again. So it's like, but obviously this takes place much earlier than
The
Saw
problem
7.
is though,
So
is like I mean, I think one of the tough things with the sequel, if they were ever going to do one, is the fact that they've got Carrie Lewis, or however the hell you say his name, because it's spelled funny. They got him as I assume the new Jigsaw, but at the same time, that guy doesn't want to turn up for anything. So it's like, would they be able to bring him
we'll
back?
see.
If they bring him back with enough of a paycheck, I guess they'll be able to do it. So
Yeah, throw enough money in.
because like,
And they got,
I mean,
I don't know, cost.
they made
I was
like
so
all
happy they got Costas back. I was so
Oh,
happy
yeah.
they got Costas Mandel back, Mark Hoffman. I was like, oh, great. Even if it was only for a little minute, it was like, oh, okay, this is great. And then obviously we have the kind of the final trap of the movie, which is
It's
like
not
this
even a
weird,
trap,
like,
though.
yeah, it's like this thing. Like, it's great because we finally see it. Okay, Henry, he was in on it as well, and that's fucked up because when you go back and watch it, you're like, because he feels really awkward when he sees John, right? And he's like, oh, it's a long story. He tries to get
Yeah,
out of
as
it. He
well, the
doesn't want
fact that
John down there. Yeah, but
one of the things as well is one of the things I noticed.
he's walking around with a fake scar, which is convenient as well.
Yeah,
so,
no,
you know.
when he's talking, but he must have intentionally gone to the cafe where John is then, right? Because they know
Yeah.
stuff about these people. One of the things I noticed as well, whenever most times when he's talking, he's always like itching his nose and stuff, which is a tell for a lot of people that they're lying.
Yeah,
I know,
so they say.
mind blown, but you know, yeah. Oh, but like,
I don't know. I think it's like that. Actually, that makes Henry kind of the worst guy in this film, like worse than Peter, because he like
yeah, he's
actively
a cancer
recruits people.
patient
He attends fucking cancer support groups, pretends to have like stage 4 like cancer, and then like finds those people again and like tricks them into like following this link.
Yeah,
He's
could you
the
imagine
worst
how
one of the
awkward?
lot, man.
I don't know how awkward
And
it
he
would
does
be.
it all
Like
with a
it
smile on his face as well. At least like Dr. Peterson, at least she like wears
does
that
that over the
shit, man.
phone.
This guy's pure scum, man. Henry of all people.
And the funny thing is, as well, is like, can you imagine if he goes to, like, he obviously has to rotate cancer support groups, otherwise they're in his hand. Shouldn't you have died like 4 months ago or something? And it's like,
Yeah, that's true.
what if someone
He
else
probably
rotates support groups and they see him there and he's like, you've had like stage 4 for like 2 years now. Like, what's going on here?
Yeah, he probably just turns up at different ones. But then again, as long as he goes to one and then comes back 6 months later, presumably it's a whole new ring of people.
Yeah,
Like,
true, actually. Well, yeah, unless.
But yeah. But yeah, man. And then anyway, he's tied up in this bathroom, and he's got this like belly tickling machine there. I don't know what that
Well,
is.
it's got like
Unfortunately,
blades on it, so.
yeah, it's this weird like it's like, okay, so they just never explain. They just have the worst like transition out I've ever seen. It's just literally like it's like a Microsoft PowerPoint like transition. Like the whole thing just spins around. It's
Yeah,
with
spinning and
Mark
zooming.
Hoffman
And I'm like, the
it's like
thing
such a
is though,
shit way to. I don't
with
know.
post-credit scenes was that like they can be like 5 minutes, some of them can be very like
Yeah.
be even extended. This is like 2 minutes max. And like you could have had like an extra trap in, like in the similar vein to how they did the imaginary trap with that guy on the poster, you know. I mean,
Yeah,
not that it would be imaginary, but it could be in that sort of time frame where it's like, doesn't have to explain anything actually because you know everything about the film already. Just have to explain the rules, and then you just get to see them watch this guy gets like demolished.
Well, you
Oh,
could have had, I don't know, for example, what I'd have done, for example, is I'd have okay, the post-credit scene, and then the guy, like, you just hear this breathing, and it's like, so, and then like the lights come on, and Mark Hoffman's turned on the lights, and this guy's like, where am I? And it's like, oh, you fucked with John Kramer, da da da. Now it's your trap, and then it's like, and then it starts, and then he slams the door, game over, and then that's the end, and you don't even need John Kramer there, you know. So I think that would have been a better way to do it, but it is what it is. I'm glad it happened. I'm glad we had a bathroom scene with Hoffman, and it tied up the loose end with Henry. So you got a lot of stuff going on within that, like 1 minute or 90 seconds, however long that credit scene is. But yeah, that's Saw X, and it really does leave me with a lot of hope for Saw 11. That's the good thing, because the last two movies, Spiral and Jigsaw was shite. Obviously, that was trash.
Spiral Spiral was good. It was very
Spiral was
different,
okay,
but you don't know where it could possibly go.
You know, they just went, let's not do that again. I don't know.
Yeah, because it's like, because Spiral, I mean, as good as it was, you couldn't really tell there wasn't really anywhere for it to go. Like, I feel.
Yeah, exactly. It was just this. This was much better. Well, we're going to rank them now. So let's see. So we've watched Saw X twice, and obviously I've seen all these movies multiple times. I don't think you'd have seen Jigsaw, Spiral more than once, right? I've seen them twice.
I've seen all the core Saw films twice. So.
Oh really? Okay.
Yeah.
In this one now. So anyway, we're going to rank the traps. Our current rankings are number 1, the rack trap from Saw 3. Number 2, the acid spike trap that William ends up in Saw 6, which is brutal, by the way. I watched that last night. Back. Number 3 is the. Yeah. Number 3 was the wax trap from Spiral. Well, the wax trap 2.0 I've written here. So that's the one where she gets her like spine severed. Number 4 is the motel rapist trap from Saw 4, where he gets all of his limbs torn off and his eyes dug out.
Yeah, both.
Number 5 is the fish hook. Yeah. Number 5 is the fish hook trap from Saw 7, which is
forgot about that one.
Yeah, it's a horrible one. Number 6 is the pendulum trap from Saw 5. It's Mark Hoffman's, the one that he made, his trap.
The most rigged trap of all time.
Yeah. Then number 7, we have the wax trap from Saw 1, which is where the guy's like arse naked, coated in wax, and burns himself while walking around cut broken glass. Number 8
is some indecipherable code.
Yeah. Number 8 is the Venus flytrap from Saw 2, which is the opening trap from that movie. And then number 9 is the spiral trap from Jigsaw, which was absolutely terrible. And that was the best trap we nominated from that film.
Oh,
so
that
tells you a lot.
Joke traps.
So, which trap are we nominating from this one? We got a lot to choose from. We've got the eye sucking trap. We've got the brain surgery trap. The ghillie saw. Probably not Gabriella's trap. Yeah, which one are we going to choose?
I think this is probably between the ghillie saw trap and also the lobotomy one. But I think the lobotomy one has to be the worst because of the worst case scenario for the ghillie saw trap is pretty bad. Obviously, you don't have a leg, but you can get a prosthetic. So prosthetics now are actually very good. But in the case of the lobotomy one, you're a lobotomite. But
lobotomy is I'm pretty sure lobotomy is removing the entire brain. This guy
no. Lobotomy is removing any part of your brain, because if you remove someone's whole brain, they just die.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. Yeah, this guy he tears a little bit of his brain out, and that has to be they're both bad. I still think the eye sucking one's bad as well, because your eyeballs get sucked out of your head, man.
But the thing is, though, that's not a hard one to deal with, because all you have to do is just turn the dial and break 5 fingers, which is not bad, because those will heal. Or worst case scenario, you lose use of 5 fingers, which going by Saw traps is not that bad.
No, they would totally heal. You can heal your fingers, that'd be fine. Yeah. It's just which Saw trap would you least want to be in? Okay, yeah, the eye sucking one is okay, because you and me you would definitely get out of it. You'd be fine, man. you get out of it. I completely unscathed. Yeah, I'd just break all my fingers, which I could, brain surgery versus ghillie saw one. It's got to be the brain surgery one.
Has to be brain surgery. That's so
just
bad.
Do you know why as well? Because that was the hardest one for me to watch as well. I was literally. It's not often I do this. I had to look. I had to like. Do you know what I mean? I had to like. I couldn't even look for a couple of seconds like watching. I was just like, fuck, this is too much, man. This is brutal. A guy having to do it on himself, man, and then he gets clamped over the face with like and burnt to death anyway. So yeah. All right, so we'll nominate the lobotomy trap. We'll call it that. Where are we going to put that up against all the other ones? I mean, we've got the rack trap and the acid trap. I feel like
it goes around like the top 3 region, I think, because it's talking about like the worst. I mean, the best case scenario actually as well. With the acid traps. I mean, that's more dependent.
No, William's acid trap is the worst, man. I mean, it's not in his hands. But in terms of being one that you don't want to be in, that's a horrific death.
It's a horrific death, but the difficulty is with it. There is no. The best scenario is nothing happens, and then the worst case scenario is like you just get like burned alive by acid, like injected into you, like.
Yeah, and your legs fall away like a Lego brick.
Yeah, literally. That's the problem with the top 2 because you're relying on someone else.
That's true.
And like
that's true.
Yeah, and I think the worst part about the rack trap is that you have to rely on Jeff to save you. It's not even that hard. What he has to do is like get the key from like a hair triggered shotgun, and he kills the guy behind him like a moron.
But which one would you least want to be in? That's the point.
All right. Imagine if I have to lean back and then wake up in one of these.
Yeah, if you had to wake up in one of these traps. I think
the lobotomy one's the worst because you're so actively involved in it.
Yeah, and it's not like a quick death either, really. I mean, you just
This one of the things is funny as well. Like at one point, he literally just says like, "Nah, I'm just gonna die," and then Cecilia's only convinced him to open his head.
Yeah. Up. No, he gets encouraged because the mask like burns him a little bit.
Oh yeah, there's that too.
So we're gonna put the lobotomy trap number 1. Do you know what? Yeah, I don't know. The rack trap is bad though, man.
Yeah, that is pretty terrible. It's a very slow death.
But then when he's dead, he's I don't know, man. I'd rather be. You know what? I'd rather be. Oh, I don't know, man. Which one? What would you rather, man? The rack trap?
To be honest though.
It's just
the problem is the rack traps. The rack trap's death is worse than the lobotomy trap, but the rack trap is so much easier to get out of than the lobotomy trap. Because, I mean, the rack trap just depends on your assistant not being terrible at like picking things up, basically.
Yeah, and now you know what? I haven't actually sat down and looked at the lobotomy trap properly because I'm sure there would be ways out of that. Like, there's a way you could jam the machine or something. He has a saw in his hand. I'm sure he could.
It's so small though. Like that couldn't do shit.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I'll go with whatever you're saying.
I'll probably have to put it first because best case scenario, even if you get out, you are missing part of your brain, and also.
All right.
John Kramer's facilities are like probably filled with like every like bacteria of all time.
True. All right, we're putting the lobotomy trap from Saw X as number 1. So congratulations to the makers of Saw X. You've made the worst trap of the entire series according to the millionth official ranking. So that's so impressive. Now the ending.
We're counting the actual ending rather than the post-credits.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, no, we can't. Do we? No, it's not the post.
It's not
the
post-credits scene.
We're talking about the twists, right? When the music.
Yeah, that's not really a twist. So.
Well, there is.
Yeah. Okay. So the twist here would be, I mean, at the end of that Parker. Yeah, it's that they walk into a trap, which is pretty cool, I guess.
But anyway, it's going up against Saw, which is number 1. So that's obviously one of the most iconic twists in any movie, I think, which is when obviously John Kramer's been in the bathroom the whole time and he stands up and everything. Number 2 is the twist in Saw 7, which is that Gordon's still alive, right? And locks up Mark in the bathroom. That's obviously a great ending. Number 3, we have Saw 6, which I'm just trying to jog my memories with William, and I think that's the one where Mark escapes from the reverse bear trap as well. So that was obviously a great one. Number 4, we have Saw 4, which is revealing that Saw 4 was it was happening at the same time as Saw 3. And it's revealing that Hoffman is the apprentice. So that's number 4. Number 5 is Saw 2, which is, your son's in a safe place. I actually think Saw 2 should go a bit higher. Actually, I think the ending to Saw 2 is like.
I think the reason it's below Saw 4 is just because it involves Mark Hoffman in Saw 4. So
yeah, I think actually Saw 2 is better, objectively speaking, because it's got Donnie Wahlberg in there, and he's like, it's just that the guy cuts the flap off his own neck to reveal the number. So anyway, that's number 5. But I think the main one there is, your son's in a safe place and all that. And that should totally go high, because that's the one with it shows that the game, because they think that the game is happening live when it's not on a delay. I think we should retcon this. Can we put Saw 2 higher?
Where?
Above Saw 4 at least.
All right.
Yeah. Okay, so number 4 is Saw 2, number 5 is Saw 4, number 6 is Saw 5, and that's like Mark versus Strom. The glass coffin, and also the 5 players they could have worked together to have gotten out of the traps. Number 7 is Spiral, and the ending for that is like Samuel L. Jackson suspended like a puppet.
Gets like guns down. Oh yeah, because his buddy was like Jigsaw the whole time.
Yeah, like the buddy cop was the apprentice. Number 8 is the ending for Saw 3. Which,
so Jeff kills Jigsaw.
Yeah. Yeah. That's it, yeah, pretty much. And then number 9 is Jigsaw, and the ending for that was just, it was, what's his name, Craig or whatever his fucking Logan. He's like, I'm the original Saw apprentice, and then it's just the worst ending, worst film ever, man. So yeah, where are we going to put the ending for Saw 6? Saw X, sorry.
I feel like it's one of the weaker endings, to be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, it might go just above Spiral, because at least the problem with Spiral's one was it was a bit like idiotic how like Samuel L. Jackson just gets killed immediately, where it's like very obvious he's like hooked up to like some puppet strings. I don't know if they're trying to say something about
but
police.
The twist was really good. The fact that kid, the buddy cop was
he faked skinning himself basically. So I guess it might have to even go below Spiral.
What is the twist in this one? The twist is that are they planned Billy Butcher being there the whole time and everything? Like, it's weird, because the twist doesn't really come at the end. The twist is more like at the big, like in the middle. It's like, it's all a scam. That kind of feels like the real. I don't know. This film's like a different format to all the others in that sense. So yeah, I think we could put it.
But this is the thing that I think one of the weakest parts of the fact that this ending is missing a slam of a door and a game over. There's a reason it was in all the previous films, and I think changing that didn't help it.
Yeah, and they do have the bathroom. If we count the bathroom scene as the ending, then that could change things. But I think either way, I suppose it's definitely going below Saw 5.
Yeah, they mishandled even the bathroom bit, because then they ends it with like the Batman spinning transition.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's put it. I don't know. Yeah, above or below Spiral, I guess. I think probably. Yeah, maybe you're right. Below Spiral.
Yeah, I think below Spiral. Spiral was like mind blowing. To be fair.
Strange, yeah. Especially since the closing frame was literally. Maybe it even goes below for Saw 3. To be honest.
Yeah.
I just think the ending was a bit weak, wasn't it? Let's be honest. All right, Saw X going. I think 9.
What makes a good Saw ending is not just the twist, but it's the fact that you leave kind of feeling like mind blown and also a bit pumped, because like obviously like they slam the door, and then you've got you just kind of like all the stuff. It's because after your first time watching a Saw film, it's like only at the very end everything starts. You leave the cinema, it's like everything's piecing together in your head.
Exactly.
Ironically, a bit like a jigsaw puzzle. Ooh. But like,
with this one, it's like it's weird because it's got 2 endings as well. You walk away from the first one, you're like, I mean, we literally walked away from both, right? So the first one is like they'll walk into the sunset, so you're like, oh, this is weird.
That's weird.
And then the bathroom ending is like great, it's cool, but it also feels a little bit out of place as well.
Yeah, that's the
It
thing.
should
I
have
think
been
also
longer,
the fact
or just done a bit differently. But
Yeah.
anyway, although maybe we should put it high. No. Yeah, it's fair. I think when we look back, we'll be like, yeah, this is not the best ending. Anyway, the Sigma quote. We have number 1. Don't talk to me about money. I've got money. It's about principle. A short of which can be found on our channel as well. So go check that out. That is from Saw 6, involving William and John Kramer. Number 2 is the voicemail from Saw 2, which is John recording a voicemail on Eric Matthews' son's phone. To fuck with him. Number 3 is the only thing wrong with killing you, Jill. I can only do it once. That's Mark Hoffman's quote from Saw 7. Number 4 is you're a hooker approaching John Kramer outside a hospital and him turning her down. She's like, "You're a beautiful woman. You should go home." So that's number 4. That's from Saw 4. Number 5 is how do you like your coffee? Alone. That's from Spiral. Number 6 is the Sigma versus Sigma confrontation, John Kramer versus Mark Hoffman in Saw 5. Number 7 is Amanda, sort of egging on the doctor to kill her on the spot in Saw 3. Number 8 is you're mostly apathetic. No, I find you to be apathetic, but mostly pathetic, which is John's message to Adam in Saw 1. And finally, obviously from Jigsaw, we have you have a choice. You can scream or not scream. So yeah, that was shit. So where are we going to put? So what quote are we going to go with, and where are we going to put it?
Well, I think originally you wanted to have good choice, which is pretty decent.
Yeah, but I'm trying to put the music to it, the Sigma music, and I'm like,
yeah,
I think
yeah, it's like one less person to split the money with. Like at the reaction of like these grisly deaths, like in front of you, it's like,
yeah,
I'm getting more money out of this.
Yeah. Okay, I think we should have that. Where are we going to rank it?
Maybe just briefly read them out again. I mean, like from
so number 1,
sort of the middle
I've got
region.
money. Number 2, voicemail. Number 3, I can only kill you once. Number 4, turning down the hoe. Number 5, the coffee alone. Number 6, the John Kramer versus Mark Hoffman, which should be higher. But
I think
anyway, as a Sigma moment,
I think above or below turning down the hoe, maybe.
No, turning down the hoe is great. I think, split the money. Although it is good quite like, I really thought one less person to split the money with. That is pretty landlord sort of grind set, man. But yeah, I think fifth is a good spot for it then. Below turning down the hoe, above the coffee alone, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So that is going in at 5th from Saw X. And then finally, we're going to rank the film itself. Number 1, Saw 5. Number 2, Saw 6. Number 3, Saw 4. Number 4, Saw. Number 5, Saw 3. Number 6, Saw 2. Number 7, Spiral. Number 8, Saw 7. Number 9, Jigsaw. Did you like that? Where are we going to put Saw X? If you can even remember any of what I just said.
Oh yeah, I think prior. I think after our first time, we put it above or below.
Yeah, after the first time we put it low, but now I'm thinking this is a serious it's just weird because it's like totally different to all the other ones, right? But it is good.
Maybe above Saw. Where's Saw 3 on this?
Saw 3 is 5th, below Saw and above Saw 2. But I think both of those are. The thing is, all the original series are like really good. Well, not really good, but they're all like pretty equally
all
good.
Similar quality. I would say above Saw 3 because I think Saw the original is. I do have quite a soft spot for the original Saw. To be fair, so it's a thing that you can have for a Saw film.
Well, yeah, that's 4th. I think Saw 4 is quite high on our list. It doesn't really deserve to be that high, but we're going to retcon all that right now. We need to decide where to put Saw X. By the way, this is I'm glad that they had to return to Roman numerals because they hadn't actually done that since Saw 6. So, the thing about Saw is it's really good, and I like that it's really gonna it's obviously gonna give the Saw franchise a better direction. I hope that they continue. They can make as many movies as they like this, and I think we'll, as a fan base, we'll be happy.
Yeah, because it
I
feels
think
like a
this is
return
much
to the
better
original.
direction. This is much better than Spiral and Jigsaw, for sure. This is a good way to continue the franchise. Saw 11 now has a lot of potential, and I hope they just make it for next year. But we'll see.
You know for sure if they are going to make one.
Oh yeah, of course they will.
Yeah,
but
I mean, this is
my
doing
real
fairly
question.
well.
My real question is, yeah, well, because it's not. There's a lot of things that aren't great about this film. There's a lot of like things that should have been changed. I feel like with the original series, pretty much everything is like I take it at face value because I'm like, okay, that's how it was. That's how Saw films are. This one's like because it's trying to do something different. It obviously has a lot of these variables there. So I don't know. So you put it above Saw 3 and below Saw.
It's above or below Saw 3, I think.
See, I think Saw 2 is better than this.
Oh yeah.
Unless if we rearrange this, can we put Saw 2 and then Saw X and then Saw 3?
Yeah, I could do that.
I
don't know. I just have like a hate boner for Saw 2, to be honest, for some reason. It's just like I never take it seriously.
It's because Saw 2 is like kind of the house trap is kind of dead. It's not dead, but it's like nah.
It's something you can easily zone out from. It's the B plot that's more interesting, to be honest.
The Donnie. I keep wanting to say I've got all these names in my head. I've got Mark Hoffman, Donnie Wahlberg, Mark Wahlberg, Eric Matthews. I'm trying to so you've got Eric Matthews and John Kramer. I think all that stuff and the reveal at the end is so good, and you get a lot of John Kramer in that film. I think that's why I like Saw 2 a lot. I would rather watch Saw 2 than Saw. Oh, I don't know. Saw X is really good though. I don't know. I think Saw X
goes below Saw 2,
but
half hour free time. So
yeah. True. So how about that? So we put just to read it out again because I know everyone loves that. Number 1, Saw 5. Number 2, Saw 6. Number 3, Saw 4. Number 4, Saw. Number 5, Saw 2. Number 6, Saw 10. Number 7, Saw 3. Number 8, Spiral. Number 9, Saw 7. Number 10, Jigsaw. That's our ranking as it stands. So hopefully we'll get to revisit this series next year, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Until then, we'll see. But thanks everyone for tuning in. Like, comment, and share, all that good stuff. So thanks for joining, and we'll be back. Same bat time, same bat channel.